At the beginning, it's hard to define your style as a photographer. How do you stand out? How does someone choose you over someone else when they're just scrolling? I've tried to look at what makes me happy. I started to realize I love color. Also, a little bit creative use of lines or space. Those kind of photos made me happy. Vibrant, joyful photos for creative and happy people. That's what I do. Oh, yeah.
Okay. Well, you gotta ask these things.
I know. It's crazy.
I'm self-conscious about it.
I did like a 30-person headshot yesterday, and yeah.
30-person headshot?
And like some people, it's like,
as in
do
you had 30
yourself?
people total, or there were 30 people in?
It was like 10 minutes per person, kind of rolling.
Corporate.
Yeah.
That pays really well. It does. I've run into corporate photographers, and that pays really well. Those corporate people take their headshots very seriously. Yeah, it's a big deal.
Actually, it's more like California tech company, so it's like it's not like as serious. So we had people wearing jackets and like whatever they wanted to wear, kind of. They could choose whatever headshot they wanted. It didn't matter if they were like kind of looking to the side or like laughing. It was all about. Anyway, it was all about just bringing their personality out. But it was, it's interesting. People talking about looking at the camera, and do people want to see themselves? Will it make them more nervous in the moment? And
so what's your go-to like tricks to make people feel comfy? Because they have to feel comfy if you really want to get that warmth out of them for those portraits, right?
Yeah. You really want to you just want to make it feel like them, whatever that is.
Yeah, so how do you do that? What's your tricks? Because, we all have our little tricks.
Yeah. How do you do it in 10 minutes? That's the thing.
Yeah,
10 minutes start from the time they walk in to the time that they choose the photo and leave.
Then you have like a bottle of tequila on the side set up.
They were saying they should have had their company happy hour and then done the photos.
I find that could be it's a double-edged sword, definitely. If you try the whole, get a shot of liquor real quick, it could work for you, but it could really work against you. The monsters can come out sometimes, So I stepped all over you. I asked you a question and then stepped all over your answer. Showed you what a great podcast guy I am. What are your tricks?
I just like to, first of all, just a warm welcome, like, hey, how are you doing? How are you feeling? Like, how's your day? Introduce myself. And my trick is just don't stop talking. Like, don't give them even a second to be like, oh gosh, this is awkward. And literally that happened once, I stopped talking, the music stopped playing, and then the room was silent for a second. And the person was like, what do I do now? They literally, so it's it's a little exhausting sometimes, but complimenting them, just being excited when you're taking the photo. Oh, wow, this is amazing. Oh, this is your angle. I love this.
Even though it's really not.
Well, it doesn't even matter. It doesn't even matter, right?
But it's about making them believe it, right?
Yeah, it's how people feel about their photos has a lot to do with how they felt about the experience. And so if you give a positive experience, the person that was kind of organizing the whole shoot, she's like, I had an assistant with me. She's like, you guys are the hype team. Literally, you guys are such a good hype team. I'm like, that's the job. That is literally the job. The equipment and the photo, it's all secondary. The job is literally just to get people to open up and feel comfortable. And, I ask them questions sometimes. I have the camera up and I'll just ask them, what do you love about your job? And then you just kind of see them they're not thinking about having their photo taken. And I'll just keep it up there and just snap a few in the moment in between them talking. Or
you're giving away all your tricks, all the tips. People are going to steal them now.
I think that's what I love about photography is that it's so much about connection. And it kind of people, I say on my website that photography is a lot like my other job, nursing. And it's kind of hard to understand.
How do you cross that bridge? Yeah.
Exactly. Well, I'm kind of getting into that now, but where it's about people and connection and making people feel comfortable. And nursing is a lot like that too, interestingly enough. So there's the technical side, right? Technical side of nursing, critical thinking, literally life-saving. But then I work in the ICU, so there's a lot of families and people are in pain. People are coming out of comas. it's a lot of emotional kind of stuff. And photography is the same. You know, you learn the technical stuff. You have to get so good at the technical that you don't even have to think about that anymore. You can focus on the relationship, making people feel comfortable and giving a good experience. So it's interestingly the same. And it's usually for a short period of time. Like in photography, you know, it's like a wedding day or a shoot. And like, I may not see these people again. And in nursing, it's, you know, this tragic event. I see them twice, the 2 days, you know, in the ICU, and then I don't see them again. And I get that short time to make a big impact.
Well, you've put a lot of thought into this. This is not just coming out of nowhere. You really have thought about this.
I've never really explained it that much in depth, but...
It sounds like you gave it some pretty good thought. You didn't stutter on your words at all. You went from one thing to another.
Because it's all the truth. But I think you spend a lot of time thinking like, why do I like this? And why do I also like this? You know, like, what is it about these two things? And people are always asking, oh, are you going to leave nursing? Are you going to do photography full time? I'm like, well, I am doing it full time, but I don't think I'm going to leave nursing. And here's why. And here's what I like about both of them. And here's how they're similar and different.
That is the natural assumption, right? It's like, once you're a full-time photographer, why would you want to still do your nursing job? And for you, it comes down to that connection over a short period of time.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like I've been a nurse for 14 years.
That's a long time.
It's a long time.
So pretty much right after you graduated then.
That was my first career. Yeah. I went straight high school to college nursing school.
I'll put it just a little bit lower in front of you. I mean, there you go, right there. Yeah, you can't break it. Don't worry. It's meant to be.
It's kind of nice sandbag on it.
Yeah. It'll be fine.
Yeah. Wait, what were we asking?
No, so I was just saying that you pretty much became a nurse right after graduating college then. You were one of the lucky few who were able to find a job right after college. But that was 14 years ago too.
Yeah, 2007 when I graduated. I was 22 and they were still giving sign-on bonuses for new grad nurses. Oh, wow.
So it's a completely different era.
Yeah, even in the ICU. And these days you can't get hired in the ICU so much as a new grad, but they were, it was a different time. And then like starting 1 year after that, like the sign-on bonuses ended and I kind of snuck in there at the right time.
How many years into nursing did you start thinking about photography? I don't know if we ever talked about that during
I don't know.
Talks.
It's kind of been a journey. It was about, do you want the whole story?
Yeah, why
not? 3 years into full-time nursing, I kind of felt like, okay, I got this down. I learned it. What's next? So I decided to go back to school and to become a nurse practitioner. So that I did. I worked full-time as a nurse and I went to school part-time. And so that took me another 3 years to get my master's and be a family nurse practitioner. So that's 6 years in. At that time, should I give the interlude of all the in-between that happened?
Yeah, that's sort of the interesting journey, right?
Yeah,
so
it
everyone's
is.
journey is different. Like, how did you end up there?
At that time, I needed a break kind of in general, right? It's like a 6-7 year itch, right? It happens in a lot of things.
I don't know. I've never done anything that long. I'm kind of like the Rolling Stone gathers no moss kind of person.
But I guess, I was doing stuff. At the 3 year mark, I started doing something else for 3 years, right? And then, so it has been every few years, really. But so I felt like I needed a break, like a sabbatical or something, right? And I don't know why workplaces don't give that more often because it only makes for more well-rounded, healthier, better workers.
Yeah,
but
I don't know why. It's just such a hard sell with employers in general, right?
Yeah. So I went to my employer, the city of San Francisco. I don't know how much I should give away.
That's completely up to you. You don't still work for them, do you?
I do.
Do you? Okay. But are you going to give away any sort of confidential information?
No.
No, why not? Go for it.
Well, so I wanted to take a leave of absence, like a few months. And they said no. I mean, they weren't doing it at the time or whatever it may be. Like, we don't have enough workers. You can't. And I said, okay, I quit. And they said, oh, what? I was like, yeah, I quit. So I quit and I went and I traveled for, 4 months maybe. I did a trip with a friend down in South America. We did the Patagonia region, which was amazing. Buenos Aires, Chile. Yeah, Torres del Paine. We did like the W Trek down there. That was amazing. And then with my boyfriend at the time, we spent a few months. Was it a few months? Oh gosh, it was a month in Africa. We did Botswana, South Africa, Zambia, Zimbabwe.
Wow.
We did like a whole tour. And then we spent about a month in Canada, where he was from, with his family. And then we did a road trip down the California coast. And then I spent a month with my sister out east, waiting for her to have her first baby. And I got to be her doula, labor support person when she had her baby, because I was a trained doula in nursing school.
This is in Maryland?
She was in Virginia, yeah.
Okay.
And anyway, that was the whole thing. So those were my
4
travels.
months.
Yeah, those were my travels over a handful of months. And then...
that's a lot of traveling for 4 months.
It was a lot.
Yeah, that's a lot.
We're talking about packing for negative 18 degrees in Canada over the winter, and then also, Africa weather and safari, remote camping gear, and then
So what were you...
all kinds of stuff.
What were you hoping to get out of that 4-month sabbatical? What were you looking for?
Just back to real life of the world. You get in your little zone. In your little bubble of where you live and how you work, and you get just used to that, and you just need to see the broader picture better, right? And to spend more time kind of learning about yourself. And in traveling, you learn a lot about yourself.
Oh yeah, that's true.
And it goes back to my semester at sea when I was in college, the first traveling I ever did around the world on a ship. I think I told you about this in the past. But
do I remember correctly that I just imagined this actually something went wrong on the ship while you were on it?
Yes. We got hit by 3 storm systems converged on us at once in the middle of the Pacific. We were literally at the international date line, which was a week of traveling at sea in the middle of the Pacific. And we had to get rescued by the Coast Guard, and the ship was destroyed, and they towed us down to Hawaii, and then we flew the next few countries, and then the ship got repaired and met us, in Vietnam, I think.
This was during college, was it?
Yeah, my sophomore year of college, yeah.
It's like that, there was an MTV...
Road
Rules. That was semester at
same
sea.
semester
You were
at
on
sea.
that show. That's amazing.
I wasn't on the
show.
I would not be a good road rules person.
I remember when you were telling me, the first time you were telling me about your travels all over the world.
Yeah.
And I remember just being so shocked because if just by your appearances, right? I'm sure you get this all the time. You're the girl next door. It's very unassuming.
So innocent.
You never, you would never, if I look at you, I would never think that you've traveled all over the world. I mean, I'm very...
Wait, what does someone who's traveled all over the world look like?
I don't know. They just look... I would imagine them to dress differently. There's like I said, it's definitely judging a book by cover. In this case,
I mean, that's what humans do. What else do you have to do?
I know. I think it's just you're not supposed to, but you can't help it, right? It's unconscious that you do it. But I'm always open to being proven wrong.
Yeah. I like proving people wrong.
Yeah. There you go. So you definitely proved me wrong when you started coming. I was I couldn't believe it. Oh my God. I don't know.
I remember talking about that.
Yeah, we were in your car coming
back.
I think it was you were doing the shoot for me.
Yeah.
Right? You were taking the photos for me, and you were just telling me about your world travel. You biked across the country. My jaw was just dropping. It was I just was not expecting to hear, because you know what it is to usually... Maybe, I don't know, maybe it says something about your maturity. Usually people, it's kind of like vegans. Vegans can't wait to tell everyone that they're vegans. And when people do any sort of traveling, they can't wait to tell anyone about all the travels.
Oh, that time when I was in...
Yeah. It was like this.
When I was in Botswana.
It's just, you didn't reek of any of that.
Well, I mean, I don't know what to say. That's good, I guess.
It is good. That's I mean, I'm sure, when I spent my 7 years overseas. Actually, I think I was the same way. I wasn't I spent my 20s overseas, people. And
that's not why we do it. That's not.
Yeah, you do it because there's something inside you that you just have to do it, right?
Yeah, it's not. We're not trying to be anything but chase our souls, I guess.
Were you taking pictures during your travels at all?
I wasn't as into photography at the time. I would just, how old was I? I turned 20 in Tanzania.
Well, if it's 6, that's 28, right? Because you did 6 years, 3 years as a nurse, and 3 years as a
during those travels. Okay.
Oh, you're talking about your semester at sea.
Yeah. Okay, let's fast forward to the travels.
If you want to do your semester at sea.
No.
Let's go for it.
I was like, I definitely wasn't taking a whole lot of photos back during semester at sea, but the next bit of traveling, I took some photos, but I didn't really get into it.
Is he not allowed on the
couch?
No,
he's fine.
Yeah, we're talking about Sarah's dog, Spruce.
He's just making noises over there.
No, he's fine.
Let's see. I didn't get into photography till after that, so I guess I can continue the journey here. Let's see what happened when I got home from traveling. Okay, I got home from traveling and I was like, hey, I have this new career. I'm a nurse practitioner. Let's find a job. So I went and I found a job, and like everything in my life, it was just like the most random thing ever. Like I went to work at an oil refinery
as a nurse practitioner.
Like what? That's kind of, I don't know. Maybe it went along with the like shock people kind of thing. It was a recruiter found me, and they didn't really tell me what the job was, and I was like, sure, tell me more. And before I knew it, I was working at an oil refinery. As a clinic manager, which I had never done. I had never managed people. And also I'd never worked as a nurse practitioner. And so that was...
And they knew that.
Yes.
Okay.
Needless to say, that was like the maybe weirdest job, strangest experience ever, being like throwing myself fully into both of those roles, being the only practitioner on the campus of thousands of employees. Also trying to figure out how to be a manager and manage my staff. And it was in the occupational health realm. It's a sticky kind of strange realm to work in anyway. So strange times there. And I got really burnt out really fast doing all those things. About a year and a half I lasted. And then...
That's still a decent amount of time.
It was, I don't like to like give up on something, but there comes a point where my current husband, so we were dating at the time, and I was just not happy, and he even knew it. We weren't even dating that long, but he was like, you just don't seem like yourself. You could just leave. Like, you could just quit. And it didn't cross my mind. Like, I didn't know how unhappy I was and how much I was not myself at that time. And I was like, as soon as he put that bug in my head, I was like, yep, done. I'm gone. He's like, you don't have to have a plan. You don't have to know what you're doing next. So I just quit. And I was like,
that's so interesting, because you were so ready and willing to quit your previous job.
Well, I knew I was moving on from that, right? There was like a plan. I'd gone to school. I graduated.
Okay.
I had been there 6 years.
That's where the confidence for quitting came from.
Yeah. I knew like the next thing was coming. In my mind, I was going to work as a nurse practitioner. That was like going to be my next thing I was going to do for, 10 years. Who knows? I don't like to plan too far ahead, but like I was expecting to have like a career in that arena for a while. And after you spend money on school and you spend the time and you think to yourself, like, maybe I don't like this, It's kind of an interesting reality to face. I did apply for other nurse practitioner jobs after that, and I got some interviews set up, and I went to like prepare for the interviews. Like, let me just think about, what I want to say, why would I really want to work in this clinic? I like drew a blank. I was like, I just don't want to do it. And I couldn't go to an interview thinking, trying to make something up. Like, it's not going to work. So I canceled my interviews and I was like, I'm not doing this. So
was it like an existential crisis for you? Were you making you questioning yourself at all, or you just accepted, fuck these interviews, I don't even want to do them?
It was a little bit of it was a really strange time because, I don't know would I say it was a crisis? Maybe. Because I was like, I went to school for this. I paid
you've only built your whole life around it,
yeah,
right?
like this was the next thing. Wow. Like, is this a failure? Like, what am I going to do? Like, what would make me happy? I don't know. And so I took a few months and I just didn't work, and I kind of tried to figure it out. Thankfully, my husband, who was only my boyfriend at the time, but he was so supportive of that, to have somebody who's like, hey, just do what makes you happy. That was
Brandon,
a great help.
if you're watching or listening to this, you're loving this right now.
Well, that's the kind of
such
person
a pivotal role in Sarah's life.
Yes, of course. It was a strange time. And so in the meantime, I knew I could always work as a nurse. And I did love working in like trauma and intensive care. There's something about it, like you do your 12 hours, you like save lives, you know, people get better and then you leave and then you go back to your life.
No emotional commitment.
I mean, it's just interesting to be able to, you know, check off the list, see people literally, you know, get better and things like that. And you know, there's always nursing jobs, especially for someone who has experience. So I just contacted my old job and I was like, hey, can I come back and work per diem? Which is the great thing about nursing is there's all these other kinds of jobs. You don't have to work full time. You can work per diem, which is just like a few shifts a month, kind of work when you want, kind of thing.
And that's what you do to this day, right?
And that's what I still do, yes. So I went back and I worked there for a year. I was happy. And after a year, I was like, whoa, nope, it's time to try something else.
A year of per diem.
A year of per diem, yeah.
Really? So even that still wasn't scratching that itch for you. There was still something missing.
It was good to go back, but it quickly, like the burnout happened a lot faster than
even in per diem.
Yeah, because I worked it full time. I did the 3 shifts a month kind of thing. You know, it was like kind of like going home. You know, the people I had worked with before were there. It was the same unit I worked on, like the same manager. Like it was familiar. But I mean, burnout in the medical profession is for real. You know,
I wouldn't know anything about it.
It's like a helping profession, right? You give so much of yourself.
I wouldn't know anything about that either.
Feet. Stop. It's always thinking about other people over yourself, right? It's always like, you know, everywhere nurses, you know, hospitals are understaffed, and especially if you work in like a trauma center, it's like if trauma happens, you know, you got to take care of people. What are you going to do? Anyway, so, you know, I kind of got burnt out and I had a nice camera sitting around and I always loved kind of working on the creative side of myself. I always had like interesting crafting projects and other things. And I was like, I'm going to do this. I'm going to learn photography. So I just kind of, I used YouTube a lot. I think I watched a zillion YouTube videos, you know, how they give you the next, oh, you should watch this next. And then just kept spiraling and spiraling. And then I did a lot of practicing. And then I started like posting pictures. And then my coworkers at the hospital asked me to take pictures for them. And then I met a blogger who was a nurse that used to work at my hospital. And I started taking pictures for her. And then it just kind of spiraled and people started asking me. And then I think after a session, someone just like paid me in cash one time. And I was, because I hadn't taken money until that point. And I was like, okay, it's happening. Let's make this work. So
that's how many, like, is that like 6 months into you diving into it?
Yeah. It was about 6 months in.
Yeah, because from what I remember, you are very much on the fast track in terms of, your career. I mean, taking off is really kind of a subjective thing, but you're doing good. You're definitely, you know, you could call yourself a professional photographer and you know, I think that would be like spot on, dead on. You know, you're not an amateur. You're not someone trying to be a professional. You are a legitimate professional.
What makes someone a professional? This is a question that you see a lot in like forums.
Like honestly, in my opinion, it's not as lofty as you think. It's just someone who's actually able to make a living at it.
Yeah.
That's all it is.
You get paid for it and that pays your bills.
Yeah, if you're getting paid and this is what you do most of the time, you're a professional. It's not about, you're doing like amazing cinematic work and creative work. No, it's just...
Yeah.
But I'm very, I don't know, I'm just not so elitist about it. I was.
You were?
I was. Like,
tell me more.
You know why? So any person who gets into filmmaking, you start off as like a snob, an elitist.
Oh,
that's just...
You start off that way.
Oh,
that's, your goal is that like aspirational.
Yeah, you want to make films.
Right.
You know? You're not here to make videos. Like you hate the word video.
Right.
You hate the word videographer.
I know. I said it earlier today. I was like, uh-oh. Is that wrong?
I don't really care. You can call me whatever you want at this point. I've really come full... I want to say full circle, because if I came full circle, then I would be back to being a snob about it, right? So
yes.
I flipped a 180
Why
on it. But you know what?
That?
when you start, and I didn't even go to like a traditional film school. I went to De Anza College, which is just a community college, but I did that for a very specific purpose. I actually, it's funny that we're talking about this because last month I started blogging. And one of like the regular blogs I have is I'm kind of retracing my steps of how I ended up where I am with video now. So I got back to when I was working in video games and I was miserable. And then I started, what made me want to get into filmmaking and when I started studying. But anyway, so when I guess I was always interested in it. I don't know if you knew this about me, but I used to be a stage actor.
I think so.
Yeah, and during that time, I used to write and direct for the stage as well. So
you've done it all.
Any theater person, I won't say I've done it all, but I've done a few things. But any theater person, like in the back of their mind, they're always curious about crossing the pond and getting into film, right?
Got it.
But as luck would have it, I ended up just packing up all my stuff at 22 and I went overseas and just left all that behind.
And what took you overseas again?
I was getting burned out on the acting thing, to be perfectly honest. I was at a point in my life, I didn't really know what to do. Mm-hmm. I was never the kind of person that really planned, and I'm not bragging about it. It's not, to a certain extent, like you said, you don't want to plan like 10 years ahead.
Yeah.
You got to leave some room for spontaneity.
No, I think we're similar in that way.
But I was all spontaneity and no planning at all, so there wasn't that much of balance at that point. And I just, I didn't know what to do with my life. It was really going nowhere quick. I still had Philippine citizenship at that time. And I was thinking, well, what's the biggest change I could do in my life? How can I shock myself into making something happen or just anything? I was like, why don't you move back to the Philippines? And so I did. And it was a big shock. It was a huge culture shock because I hadn't been back since I was 6 years old.
Whoa.
So my memories of it were really different. And I remember, I know we're getting kind of off topic here, but I remember when...
there was no topic. We're just talking.
when I got out of the airport and I saw the conditions people were living in and the traffic and the way no one was following the rules, I thought I made a huge mistake. But I was committed at this point.
Yeah.
It's like and I remember when I got to my brother's house and I put all my bags on and everything, I really thought I made a huge mistake. It's like, oh my God, what have I done? This was the wrong choice because I was so Americanized at this point. Right? I was
in the bubble.
Yeah, exactly. But eventually, I got over it. The lesson I learned was you really just can't look back. You have to kind of accept where you are now. You make the most out of it. That's how you're going to enjoy it. If I'm constantly comparing it to life in America, I'm going to be miserable. Mm-hmm. No, you have to find the things that I can do in the Philippines that I couldn't do in America, that would make it more enjoyable here. And so, and once that dawned on me, it became a life-changing experience. And I loved it over there. Right. But
you met your wife.
Yeah, I did. And what's funny about that is before that, I just refused to date Filipino women.
Oh my gosh.
Because you know what it is. I don't know how much you're aware of Asian culture here in the Bay Area and in the States, but Asians stick to Asians. And I hate that. I couldn't stand that. To me, my group of friends in high school, I used to make fun of us. I'd say we're like the UN. That we've got like someone from a different country.
Right.
Whereas most Filipinos, most Asians, they just stick to themselves. That's what...
I think a lot of people do that, though. People find people somehow, whether it's conscious or not.
I suppose, but it's really strong in the Asian community. Not just your group of friends, but who you go out with and everything. And I hated that. I couldn't stand that. Why live in the Bay Area, one of the most diverse spots in the United States, and your whole circle of friends is just Filipinos too, or just Asians too, whatever it is. You only go out with other Asians. It's such a waste of an opportunity. It's kind of defeats the whole purpose of America to me, right? So that's why I had that stingy, no Filipinos whatsoever.
So was your wife your first Filipino woman that you dated?
I had a Filipino girlfriend when I was 12.
Okay.
That doesn't really count. You're 12.
How cute.
What do you know? How old were you when you had your first boyfriend?
Oh my gosh. I think second grade.
Whoa, you got started really young.
What's a boyfriend in second grade?
Okay, so why do you say he was your boyfriend then?
Because I specifically remember it was there was a race. There were two guys, and whichever one won the race, I was going to have as my boyfriend.
Yeah, it makes sense. You were the prize. You're a piece of property to be won.
I don't know. We didn't. We probably never even said a word to each other. You know.
So didn't hold hands.
I don't remember. I don't remember a whole lot. I think we may have dated for a while through elementary school.
No, because for me it was first grade.
Oh, there you go.
And it was the same thing. Like we didn't even hold hands or anything. It was just kind of like this understood agreement. Okay, yeah. We didn't know what to do. Like, okay,
what do you do?
So just go play with our friends.
Yeah.
It's like, I like you, you like me. Okay.
Emulate adult culture somehow. I don't know.
But I remember in the first, the memories coming back now. In first grade, there was this one girl. Her name was Brandy. She was Hawaiian, and for some reason, she was just super in love with me. This girl, she would like chase me around and really try to kiss me like on the lips.
You were like,
Yeah, you're not that age. You play that game. You know, you're not supposed to like it as a boy, right? Ooh, girls, yes. Even though deep down, I've liked girls for as long as I can remember. I didn't know what to do with them.
Right,
at that age, but. Yeah, that's funny. I haven't thought of that girl in a long time.
It's funny the moments that pop back in your head.
Yeah. So you see, how long were you with? Do you remember this guy's name in the second grade?
There was a guy named Robbie and then a guy named KRIS.
Two.
Well, KRIS, I dated for a while.
Does Brandon know about this?
Oh my gosh, I'm sure this has not even been mentioned. Tell me about your dating history down to first grade or second grade. But I do remember like our parents getting together, taking one of us to the other's house or taking us together to the movies or something.
Oh, how cute.
You know. I don't know what to say about this anymore.
Getting back to the story. So after, there you go, someone wants some attention. I'm feeling left out. After 7 years overseas, and when I came back, the job market was just 2010. These were the days where you needed 3 to 4 years of experience to get an entry-level position, which was complete bullcrap. And my degree was from the Philippines, which might as well have been a high school diploma as far as people were concerned here.
Your degree in
linguistics. It's even better. Who doesn't want to hire someone with a linguistics degree? Yeah, it's incredibly applicable. Come on.
What do you do with a linguistics degree?
What do you think it is when you hear the word linguistics?
Language origins. That's about as far as I go.
But you know what? You were more accurate than one my assumptions were. I thought it was the connection between language and culture. And it's not that at all. It's really more about language origins, the science of how languages are structured and all that, right? And the reason I chose it was I was actually really interested in Japanese at this point. And they told me the only way I could access the higher level Japanese courses was to be a linguistics major. And so that's why I did it.
Interesting.
Come to find out that they were lying to me and I could have taken those. But
they wanted more linguistics majors to keep that.
I was 3 years into the program at that point. It's like, I'm so close to finishing this thing. So I just finished it. But so I couldn't get a job anywhere here.
But wait, why did you come back?
It was time. I was 29. I knew if I wanted to settle down, not really settle down, get married, but like really start building a life. I wanted to do it in America. Because I don't, just like, Philippines, it's great. You can have a really great life there if you have a lot of money. If you don't, it's a big struggle. And then you're dealing with, like, people don't even know what traffic is here. No, well, maybe people in LA know what traffic is. Yeah, it's that on a daily basis all the time in the Philippines. And, overpopulation, pollution. And then, you deal with corruption at all levels of society. Like these kind of things, over time, they start to wear on you. It's one thing if you live there and you don't know anything else. But it's another thing if you've lived somewhere else where that doesn't exist to that extent. So when you know that it doesn't have to be that way, it's just one of those small things that slowly just kind of grind away at you. Right, so I was gonna be 30 It's like,
that's a milestone. People start thinking about those
yeah,
kind
exactly,
of things.
right? I was from 22 to like 20. I'm just living. I was having the time of my life, living my
Yeah.
fantasies out, right?
There's a gear shift.
Yeah. So I'm back in the States and couldn't get a job. I ended up at a video game company because an old friend of mine was the QA manager there. And he said, "Hey, dude, I think I could get you in here as a QA tester without an interview." And I was just at that point, okay, sign me up. I just need a job.
Yeah.
But, I did that for 2.5 years and I was just miserable because I don't know how much you know about the video game industry.
I was gonna say, what do you do? Do you literally play video games
Yeah,
and you
so
give them feedback?
there's two types of testing, right? There's white box testing and there's black box testing.
Ooh.
And any QA people out here, I'm not sure I remember correctly which is which, but if white box testing is pretty much what you expect, where you literally just play the game and you report any bugs that are in there and whatever program they have, and you give some feedback and that's it. Black box testing is a little bit more intricate. You play the game, yes, but you actually you go into the tools that makes the game too, and you test those out and you mess around with those, and it's a lot more involved in terms of like the engineering, and so a little more complex. So actually, I ended up doing both. I started off as a white box tester, then I ended up getting into the black box testing.
I feel like this would be some people's dream job.
You would think. You would really think. And what's interesting is I ended up working on a game that I loved, that I really loved before in my early 20s. It's called Neverwinter Nights, right? And they were doing the latest iteration, and I couldn't believe it. Oh my God, I'm on this team, on this project. But man, I was so miserable because QA people in the video game industry, they're basically treated like second-class citizens. It's a thankless job because you're looked at that all you do is test. But these things are so broken. You have no idea how broken like software is or products are in general before they ever come out to public. And people have to find where those breaking points are and why they break, and that was our job. And you get paid so little. I think I started out making $10 an hour. And by the end I was making like 14 and change. And then on top of that, you're treated as a second-class citizen. But what made it really bad was video game companies, they don't like to hire from within. So they don't promote. They don't grow their people. They hire from without.
That doesn't seem to make a whole lot of sense.
Yeah, it doesn't. So it's like, well, what's the incentive to stick around really at this point then, right? If there's no opportunity to get out of the QA dungeon, why would you ever want to stick around? And the thing is, I remember they had opportunities before for QA people to move up, and there were QA people who became producers, QA people who became game designers, level designers, etc. And each one of those people were just completely committed to pulling that ladder up behind them and closing that door.
Wow.
Yeah, that's the environment in
They're
the video
in the new
game
club.
industry. Yeah, no, that's really. I had other friends who worked at other video game companies, and they say it's the same thing. I don't know why it's like that. So yeah, when you're in a position like that, and I was 31 at this point, you really kind of start questioning. Okay, I got to do something different.
Yeah, I don't have the time or the patience or even care to play this game. Like not literally play this game, but to like play that kind of ladder
exactly. Because 5 years could easily go by and you'd still be stuck in the same position, right? So that's when I started. Oh, it's finishing. We were talking about you, and I've been going on for like 10 minutes.
No, we're like catching up our stories together. Like how did we get to where we are?
I don't know if I ever told you the whole story.
No.
So at that point, like I said, I knew I had to take like a drastic action. I needed to do something, but I didn't know what. So I think for 2 months, every weekend, I would just go to a local cafe. I would go to Eon Coffee specifically in Hayward. Go online and just start researching things that I was interested in. And I was looking specifically, there was a criteria. One, whatever new like field I chose, the degree shouldn't matter. It had to be portfolio based and or network based. I was 31. I wasn't interested in going back to school for 4 years and getting another degree. 2, I had to actually enjoy it. And then 3, I had to find some sort of like maximum 2-year program that was very hands-on where I can actually get those skills. So for 2 months, every weekend I would just research and see what I could do. I thought about becoming a carpenter for a while because I always liked the idea of being able to build a house with my own hands. I think it's a good skill to have. But as I got into it, it seemed like apprenticeships are really hard to get into, and the work was very seasonal. So it's like that kind of turned me off from it. Then I started thinking about, well, what about being an audio engineer like in a recording studio? That sounds like a lot of fun, and that sounds like a cool environment, right? To be making albums with people.
Yeah.
But somewhere in the back of my mind, I just kind of remembered, oh yeah, you used to be a writer-director, right? And you never really tried out the video thing. So I started like, oh, let's see if there's any possibility there. And then I came across De Anza College, which had a very hands-on program. I was like, oh, so it's like some momentum starting to, this might be it. And the more I looked into it, there's really great reviews about De Anza's 2-year program. And so I decided to take the first class while I was still working in the video game company. And it actually went really well. I had convinced myself that I just wanted to be a video editor because directing, it just seemed like a pipeline dream, it was just too big. I can't chase that. That's just never going to happen. I just want to be very practical about this. And so when I took that first filmmaking class, it was exactly what I wanted. We made 4 projects in 1 quarter and all very hands-on. And it became really clear, really quick that all that experience I had for writing and directing on stage transferred right over into filmmaking, right?
Yeah, makes
Because
sense.
storytelling was storytelling. And at that point, I couldn't deny that the directing potential was there. So it's like, this one I just jumped into the deep end. It's okay, I'm just not going to hold back. Let's just jump into it full on in. And I think I stayed at my job a few more months because I wanted a certain amount of emergency fund that I could live off of. And then I quit and dove in. Yeah.
To like getting the gear, doing your own thing, trying to
just
the freelancing life.
Yeah, full-time studying. I didn't get gear.
Studying, got it.
For a long time. I mean, when I was studying, I was just shooting those projects on my cell phone. I didn't have anything. I think at some point I bought a Canon T3i and I had one lens, a 35 millimeter, and everything was shot on that. All my gear was actually DIY gear. I made my own shoulder rig. I'll watch a bunch of YouTube videos. Okay, I don't have the money. There's got to be a way. Yeah, there's got to be a way around it, right?
Yeah. Well, I mean, there's something to be said about that, people think that, oh, if I buy this nice gear, I'll be a great whatever. But it's like, do what you can with what you have for as long as you possibly can. That's how you learn, right? That's how you like really get good at your craft. And then add a piece of equipment. Kind of like Brandon, my husband, he's been getting into cycling, and he kind of wanted a new bike, but he was like, I'm not at the level where getting a new bike will help me enough, right? I'm not to that point yet. So he's like, I got to train harder to improve myself more to where the bike would make a difference. So interesting.
Well, that's good that he had enough perspective to realize that.
Oh, that's his engineering brain. Like,
oh, really?
He is like that with everything. Yeah.
Because especially with cycling, people for some reason just dive right on
all the fancy gear. Give me
exactly.
the,
I used to make this joke, like the only people I ever see cycling with all the gear are these overweight guys who, they just started this for sure. They haven't been doing this for years.
Yeah, they've got the Aero helmet.
Yeah. It's like, where are they like guys who are in shape? How is it possible that only overweight people are wearing the gear and everything? Because it's that mindset. Okay, this is what I'm gonna do now. I'm gonna buy all the expensive gear and get right into it. But he realized that's
I mean, gosh, if you do that with everything that you're interested in life, it's just, not a good decision.
Have you ever done anything like that yourself, where you just jumped on in and purchased?
I jump on into a lot of things, but it's not with like money and buying things. Usually, it's like I hadn't ridden a bike since I was super young, and then I decided to do that cross-country bike trip. But getting a bike was part of it. So you had to get enough donations to go towards a cancer research. It was a whole organization anyway, but you get the bike from that. So I like to dive into things kind of without having a whole lot of experience, but I don't really spend money, if that makes sense. I don't know. Like I had the same iPhone until literally it just like the battery lasted 10 minutes. And then I was like, oh, I got to get another. I still have the same bike I rode across the country back in 2007. And I still ride it all the time. And if people tell me, you need a better bike, you need a bike. I'm happy with the bike. The bike keeps going. I can ride the bike. Like it's vintage now. They don't make Le Mans anymore, right? So the bike has been across the country. Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, I had the same snowboarding gear. When I was a sophomore in high school, I started snowboarding and I got like this beginner board and boots set up. I used that same gear. Fast forward, I don't know how many years it's been since I've been a sophomore in high school, but just 2 years ago when we did our trip to Mammoth, I pulled the boots out of the bag and they had disintegrated. And I was like, well, I guess I can't go on the mountain today. I will buy a new pair of boots.
Yeah, but it's one of those things. As long as they work, why would you stop using it?
That's literally how I feel about everything.
So what was the first camera you were shooting those photos with then when you started?
Gosh, what was, I can't remember. So, well, I came across the camera. It was an ex-boyfriend who moved to Canada, the same one I traveled with.
Okay.
Moved to Canada, broke up with me while he was in Canada, had me box and send all his stuff to him in Canada.
Even classier.
Yes. Post breakup.
Oh my God. Why did you even do that? You would go fuck yourself. Yeah,
pretty much. I was like, you send a friend over to get your stuff, you know. I'm deep down, I'm not that kind of person, like.
No, but just like the nerve. Like,
seriously.
You break up, okay, but I'm not your slave.
You get an idea about the kind of person he is.
Yeah.
It never would have worked. So yes. But anyway, so, packed up all his stuff. Little to find out later, his nice camera never made it in the box. So I had this nice camera sitting around. Like it literally was not planned. I did not try to do that at all.
I'll say I'll believe
it. Was like behind a chair under something. And so I was like, all right, well, you know what? I'm going to use this.
Do you remember what it was?
I don't remember. It was a Canon. Oh my gosh. I don't even remember. Like one of my friends has it now.
It's one of those T2Is, T3Is.
A little fancier than that. I can't even recall. Gosh. Clearly I didn't know much about gear at the time. I did since buy a newer camera, since then, because I had to be able to do all the professional things I had to do at a certain point, but I still have that camera and I still use it.
For what?
For all my commercial, all my weddings, like everything I photograph.
Your ex-boyfriend's camera?
No, that one I gave to a friend. So when I had to upgrade the gear so that I could do like a hot shoe flash mount and like all the things I needed to be able to do weddings and things like that.
And you have a 5D?
I have a 5D Mark III. And then at a certain point when I started to do larger weddings, I had to add on a second because what if something happens to your first? So I have a 5D Mark III and a Mark IV. You have to have a backup gear.
You have that sling where you have two cameras on
I have the Moneymaker sling. Yeah, the two cameras.
Are you so what lenses are you packing on those two? Because you have the two bodies too, so you don't have to spend time switching lenses, right?
Yes.
You're switching lenses, you're missing shots.
Right. Yeah. I did for the first probably whole year, I did everything on one lens, the 24-70 with the one camera.
The f2.8.
Yeah, exactly.
The standard
because I was like, what lens can I buy that will do literally everything? And that's all I'll need because I don't want to spend thousands of dollars up front. Like I need to make sure I'm okay at this, so that I can keep building this. Anyway, so I use that lens forever, but now I keep the 35 millimeter on the Mark III, and then I keep a 50 or 85 on the Mark IV. So
you've really graduated.
Well, I mean, the prime lenses, when you get to the point where you understand enough, and now you need to up your game by having a wider aperture or something like that. You really got to go 85 1.4, my favorite lens.
You really graduated, because it's funny. I was just talking to my wife, Chris, about that the other day, because I bought a new camera, I think like 2.5 years ago. And I had just quit my job at the media agency, and we were just getting set to go over to the Philippines for a few months. Mm-hmm. and then I didn't have a lens for this new camera yet. I had sold all my other gear. And I just had that same mindset. Okay, I need one lens that I know I can just do practically everything with. So I got an 18 to 35. And then I think a year and a half later, I was always a primes guy before that. So I was like, I ended up getting a 24 prime. And once I got that 24 prime, that 18 to 35 just basically sat on my shelf and I never used it again. Yeah. And I ended up selling it just 2 days ago.
Oh.
And Chris was asking why. And I just told her that like those reasons. Because, you know, when you work with zooms, it's kind of the easy way out. You know, it's kind of like a security blanket, you know, you can get everything. Whereas if you work with primes, you tend to make more conscious choices. And obviously, you know, primes are gonna have tend to have better looks, better qualities because it's that one piece of glass meant for that one focal distance, right? It doesn't have to cover this whole range and all these technical things about it. So it's definitely one of those things where you kind of graduate to the mindset, especially like if you shoot weddings, because you feel like, oh, I need that 28 to 70. I don't know what's going to be happening, right?
Yeah, weddings are their own like interesting mix of like every kind of situation you could possibly throw in. So you do need like a little bit of variety to like options for all the things.
Yeah, but like even then, as I shot,
like you can still do quite a bit.
Yeah, so, I mean, as I shot more weddings for videos, I just found myself, you know, I just started sticking with primes anyway. It's, you know, 24. I don't know how much you know about sensors, but on a like APS-C sensor, it turns into like a 38. And, you know, if you're doing handheld, I'm getting really technical here. I'm sure people are going to love listening to this. You know, doing handheld on the 24, which turns into like a 38, you know, the jittery, this is not that much as it would be for the 50. So it's kind of like perfect. And I'm the kind of person that if I have to get closer, I'd rather just actually physically get closer. If I have to go back, then I'll physically go back, because to me, the choices you make, I don't know, for me, they seem to be stronger. You make better creative choices that way as opposed to I'm just going to zoom in or zoom out, because it's the easy way out.
Yeah. Right? And what I'd find myself on the Zoom doing is like I'd shoot a wider shot than I needed to all the time. And so, yeah, I wouldn't compose it as well in camera and I wouldn't think as much about what I was doing. And I think that naturally comes like the more you do something, the less you have to think about those aspects of it. So like when you're first starting, like it's almost overwhelming thinking of like the technical aspect, the lighting aspect, and then the clients and making your model or whomever feel comfortable. Like I didn't like it was overwhelming to think of all that. But then as you get, you know, it's all second nature, your hands just, you know, fly across the camera doing whatever settings you know you need, then you can think more about your composition and those other aspects. So I think, yeah, it's natural to kind of graduate a little bit to those other kinds of lenses.
Yeah, that's why when I heard that, it's like, she's graduating. Not to say like, I'm up here and you're like, welcome to the club. No, but I just like, I see the evolution. It's like, I recognize it.
Yeah, it's natural. And then you want to like challenge yourself more like, I'm going to really try to shoot wide open on this because of, you know, you want to challenge yourself. You don't ever want it to be like, I'm just going to show up and I'm going to do my thing. Like it has to be creatively interesting. Like, how can I make this interesting? You know?
So for like the headshots you did the other day for that startup tech company, how did you challenge yourself? What something that you tried to do that?
Well, I think, you know, having that, I hadn't really done that like so many people in a row kind of day, you know, the 6 hours of just every 10 minutes. Yeah,
you got to have your charm on all day.
Yes. So that was the challenge. The challenge is literally, it made my day when they were asking each other, you know, oh, which one do you like? And they'd be like, oh, this one looks just like you. Like, this is you. Like when someone sees a picture and like, oh, that's you. That's your personality. I can see it in your photo. Like that was my challenge. Like, how do I meet 30 people I've never seen before, make them feel comfortable and like bring out who they are in like probably like 6 minutes, because the other 4 minutes were going through choosing select and a final image. So that was my creative challenge. Also, it was like in a lab setting and there was like all overhead lights that couldn't be turned off. It was like this huge fan blowing constantly. It was all the things.
Those overhead lights are just gorgeous, I'm sure.
It was a lighting challenge. It was, so that was kind of like my personal challenge. And then after that, like for the rest of the day, we did shots of people like working in a lab setting. So that was, that was more creative.
I wouldn't expect that.
And then shots of like interior of the building, and just kind of got a little bit more creative too. So
that's interesting. It's almost like a video at that point when you're getting the B-roll, as we would call it, right?
Yeah, it kept things interesting. I think 8 hours of headshots would be quite a bit, but 6 hours felt like okay.
How did that opportunity come about? Are you doing mostly headshots? Because I see a lot of your product photography. You only named one of the top 9 product photographers in San Francisco. Hey, that's great. I think that's fantastic.
I literally was like, how did you guys come up with this list? I got no response. It was like, cool.
Oh, really?
No, I don't. I don't even know.
Hey,
they told me. They said, hey, here's this article.
The fact that they even knew about you, though, I think that says a lot. That's good. I think you were number 2 on the list, right? You were. I don't know if they said like this is in descending order.
I don't think it was in any kind of order.
But you were the number 2. I looked at that. I was like, whoa, look at that.
That was that was quite a surprise.
How does that make you feel?
I was really shocked, I guess. I mean, kind of out of the blue, I suppose. I just started product photography last year, but I love it. I really love it. I feel like for me, it's been like a progression of shoot everything when I first started. Like anything anyone asked me to do, I pretty much would be like, okay, yeah, I'll figure it out. It's like a good challenge. Let's,
Yeah, see, it goes back to like what I said about you, how your trajectory is really quick. Because I remember when we met, I think you said you'd only been shooting for like a year and a half.
Yeah,
and
it was
you're
pretty
already
early.
like, shooting, you had your family sessions, you're doing weddings already and everything. I was like, man, this girl moved really quick.
I am I feel like, you see an opportunity at your door, like go for it. You don't feel like you're ready. No one ever feels like they're ready. We all have this like imposter syndrome or whatnot, but go for it. Like it's there. It's waiting for you. Just do it. And if you know enough technically, you do your research, you practice, and you have confidence in yourself, like you'll find that you do fine. You do great. And now you do those things, like
you never got into a situation where it backfired on you. Like, whoa, okay, I actually took on way too much and I'm in over my head. I really like.
I don't think so. I mean, you have to be a little bit logical about it. Like if you're just starting and you have like, you don't have the right gear. Like you don't know anything about lighting yet, artificial light, and you're supposed to shoot in this like dungeon of a location. Like that wouldn't happen. Probably, like I would probably not say no.
Okay, so you picked your battles wisely.
I can't think of something I said no to in particular. So maybe just the right opportunities came my way that felt like the next step. So I had like friends that were getting married at City Hall and were like, can you, photograph our wedding? It was like an elopement, 2 people, like very close friends. Sure, like no problem. That was my first wedding ever photographed.
And it became your thing.
And then City Hall weddings became my thing. Photograph enough City Hall weddings. And then there was an opportunity where someone was looking for, like someone to help them with their editing or something. And they reached out to me because I had commented on a picture. Hey, do you want to like help me with, I think I helped her with editing, and then she taught me about like kind of how to shoot weddings. I went along to her weddings.
Is this Meg Stone?
Meg was at the beginning too. She, at somewhere early on, she was looking for a second photographer, and I was like, hey, this seemed, I would love to do this. And I loved her work because she didn't just do weddings. She did like a variety of things. And so far, that's what I love to do. Just if you can't tell, like a little bit here, a little bit there. And anyway, that worked out great. And I still like do work with Meg to this day. But so I shot the wedding with her, and then I shot some other weddings with her. And then this other photographer, Katie, I worked for her for like 2 years doing editing, and I still second shoot like a lot of her weddings, but she kind of like taught me a lot about weddings, and that spiraled into me getting a lot of my own full length weddings. And now I do those all the time.
Do you have any ego issues about being a second shooter?
No, I love second shooting.
Yeah. What do you love about it?
I love that it doesn't have the stress of like, it's all on you, right? You're not like the one making it all happen. So you have the ability to do like the creative things, like get that second shot that's not like the must-have shot, but has opportunity to be so creative and really good. I love that a lot of times I get to photograph the details. So when you're the primary photographer, you end up doing like family photos, which are great. I love family photos, but I also really love details like reception details. And so as a second photographer, often at times you're the one that gets to do all the details. And then I get to meet really awesome photographers and like really help them out. And I love to try to like anticipate their needs and try to figure out how to shoot like them and
that's something I didn't even think about.
Yeah, and how to like enhance their client experience, like
because you can't walk away from that shoot giving her a bunch of Sarah Eichstedt photos. That has to be her brand. And then, that's a good point.
I don't know. I love the creative community, and I think that that's a good opportunity to like build your own creative community. And then if I ever am in a pinch or if I need second shooters, like a lot of the people I've shot for have shot for me. So
how do you collaborate with these other photographers? How does this come about?
How do we meet each
other? How do you
Oh yeah. I think I met a lot of people through I think Meg I met through Honeybook, which is my client management system.
Yeah, I remember you telling me about that.
So there were like, there's like an opportunity section where people post stuff they're looking for. So I replied to her post on there, I believe. Instagram is where I met Katie. These are the two main photographers I've done work for.
Shout out to Meg and Katie.
Hey. I met Katie on Instagram. And so I've seen Instagram as a place of community, like finding your people and like growing your community and supporting other people. So a lot of people I met through Instagram. So some people have reached out to me. Photographer.
That's how we met.
Yeah. And like, hey, they want to get together. They're new to the area. They're trying to get into photography, any of the above. And I always take those opportunities to like get to know people, and it just kind of grows from there. There's also a lot of local groups. The Rising Tide Society. Have you ever heard of them?
Yeah, what's that?
Sounds
like a secret rebellion group.
Society.
I think the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. That's was the Rising Tide. If you remember Sky, that's what she was part of.
Oh my gosh.
I recently watched that series on Netflix. That's why. It's a great series.
Well,
I was close-minded to it at first, but
wait, what series was it?
Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. I think I may have seen.
Yeah, first 4 seasons are phenomenal.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Noted.
That's on Netflix if you want to check it out.
Okay.
And I derailed you from your story, but I just made the connection. I can't help it.
No, it does sound like it sounds like a secret society. I think it's because it says society at the end. But
oh, really?
Rising Tide Society is the name.
Oh my God! They probably did it on purpose. They want to sound a little dangerous.
But it has to do with the quote, like a rising tide lifts all boats.
Okay.
So it's a community who wants to uplift and support other creatives, as opposed to like feeling that there's a limited, as opposed to the mindset of like, if you get this job, that means I don't get this job. It's more like there's lots of work for all of us. And if we all support each other, then we'll all do better.
Is this just mainly photographers? Or?
No, it's all creatives, all kinds of creatives. There are a lot of photographers in it.
What is this?
There's local chapters of it. And so on Facebook, you'll find your local chapter group. So I'm part of the Oakland chapter, San Francisco chapter, and the San Jose.
Wow. So how does
and there's also
work?
An East Bay chapter that's like more of like Concord, Walnut Creek, East Bay. But so they have meetings called Tuesdays Together, the second Tuesday of every month. We're supposed to convene, and then there's a larger topic that everyone talks about in the smaller groups. But back before COVID, we would meet together. You'd often see a lot of the same people.
To Moloch, the bad god.
No. We would all like catch up together. And then you'd talk about whatever topic that the larger group had set out for you. They had like little guidelines to talk about. But it's really like can feel lonely, right, in the creative world if you're a solopreneur sort of, freelancing on your own. And so I think a lot of people crave that kind of connection and community. And so I've found that people in the Rising Tide Society and the Tuesdays Together meetings are all about that mindset of lift each other up. And
I've met a lot of people. This is something you still take part in?
Yes. Of course, the meetings have become virtual, but...
Well, this, I think I probably, KRIS would probably tell me to become a part of that. My best friend Sam would tell me because I'm notoriously bad
at community?
At community connections and everything. That's why
really?
that's why my, like, I know 100% sure that's why my career kind of just flatlined in the
Literally,
middle
that's how I get the majority of my work. Like, I think you asked me back, how did I got that tech shoot? It's one of the people in that group referred them to me. Literally, I'd say 50% or more of my work is like a referral from another person in the industry.
Makes
So,
sense. I know. I'm just.
wait, why are you
I'm
not good at this
horrible at
connection? Hold on, because you totally reached out to me. Like,
Yeah, that was me getting out of my comfort zone.
okay,
Yeah. Yeah. I'm just not. I'm good at this. I'm good
the
at
one-on-one.
one-on-ones.
Yeah,
I'm good at.
yeah.
So I conduct interviews really well. When I shoot, I really like connecting with people one-on-one. But in terms of like maintaining that relationship outside or building it, I'm just horrible at that. I don't know how I've lasted with my wife this long, honestly. But you know what it is? It's when it's the right person. Honestly, it's easy.
Yeah, it's not work.
Yeah, it's
like,
not. So I mean, obviously you have your ups and downs, but for the most part, it's easy when it's the right person, and that's.
You probably have some like really close friends that you don't talk for 4 months, and then when you talk, it's no big deal. It's fine, nothing's changed.
But that's just my nature. Is, like, let's say you and I were like really, like, let's say we're best friends. I would never text you or call you just to see how you're doing.
No, I get that.
That's not
no.
I am. But if you were ever to call me and you want to talk, I'm always there.
Yeah.
But it's just like I'm very like task oriented. I would call you if I need something, Yeah, so that's me.
That's exactly like him.
So it's not really conducive to building a network. Yeah,
well, if you had those meetings to go to, it's like
that's why I probably should join. That's just it's
something set for you that you just show up to. You don't have to really make the.
I guess it's it's something I really need to continue working on, because just the idea of networking in general just is like, oh.
Well, it's not. Yeah, just don't think of it as networking. It's not.
I know, but I can't help. In the back of my mind, it's always there. But this is what we're doing, right? Like, even over here in the group, and we're really talking. In the back of the minds, we're always thinking, okay, could this possibly lead to something?
No, we're not.
You don't think
I am literally not thinking
really?
that. No, I am not.
I guess that's what makes me horrible at it.
That's why. Yeah, it's
You're a good
mindset
person. I'm a bad person.
No. It's like you ask such great questions, and like I love like even just driving the car to that photo shoot. Like, we got to a deeper level that you often don't get to with people. Literally, just think of everyone you meet as like wow, what can I find out about this? Like, can I get to the core of who this person is? Because so many of us just have this like surface level, but ask a few really good questions, and just like. That's what I try to do. I just try to really like get to know people. Literally, I just want to like get to know you and create connection, because that's what makes life, go round. And then things just happen on the other side in terms of like, referrals and stuff. Like, that's not the point. I'm literally not looking to what I can get out of people.
So what do you do? So you literally just go to these group meetings just for connection and connecting with other creatives?
100%. Like, do they feel the same way I do about, clients that do this? Or like, are they struggling with the same things here? Or just, I don't know, there's so many really interesting people in the creative world. Like, I met a succulent florist. Who would have ever known? I didn't know succulent florists exists. And like, now I watched her live Instagrams, like how to propagate succulents. And like, I don't know, people are so interesting. There's so much more to them.
So you're able to go in there without any expectations.
Yeah,
see, that's where I have a problem. I know that's just my best friend Sandals that he gets on, because like I said, we just laugh about how bad I am at this stuff.
I just can't believe that. You'll have to come to a meeting.
Like, I'll be good at the meeting, and I'll be able to get people to laugh, and for some reason I'm pretty good at getting people to share things they normally wouldn't share. I don't know why that is, but that's why I enjoy doing this. I enjoy talking one-on-one. I'll be good there, but trust me, after the meeting, that's it. It'll be done.
Well, I mean, I certainly like. All the people that you meet, you certainly can't be like every week checking in on everybody. Mm-hmm. I don't do a whole lot of checking in, but like, 6 months from now, if I saw this person again, amazing. Like, we'll chat further in depth, or, I don't know. It's just impossible to maintain that many close friendships.
I'll give it a look. I guess for me too, I can't really blame that on aging, but aging definitely Definitely, it's definitely a factor because you become more aware that your time is precious. It's not infinite like it is when you're in your 20s. And I just don't have the wherewithal to spend my existence on people where I feel like the connection's just not really there, or there's something about them that really nags at me or annoys me. It's just like,
then don't.
I'd rather just not.
Don't, for
whereas
sure.
When you're younger, you're a lot more open-minded. But at this point, it's like, no, I'm just not willing to put up with that.
No, for sure. Yeah. Don't hang around people that you're not feeling.
Yeah. So
maybe there's more people than not that you feel that way about.
It sounds like I'm making excuses, but I'm just trying to be as honest as possible about myself here.
I mean, I'd say I have a few like close friendships, and like a lot of times those friendships, like we don't talk for months on, and it's the same kind of thing. Like we don't necessarily call each other up. How's your week going? Yeah. And it's interesting. My husband's a lot like you said you are in terms of
we're guys, right?
Yeah. I'm sure there's plenty of guys who are not that way.
No, there is. Your husband, have you ever heard of this colors test? Like it's a personality thing they do at companies.
I don't think so.
Yeah, so I had to do it when I was at the media agency. And because we were owned by this bigger accounting firm. I know it's really weird, right? An accounting firm owns a media agency and we're all in the same building, but they make everyone go through this personality test. It's called colors, and every person is composed of 4 different colors, essentially. Orange is the creative, the spontaneous side. Green, it's kind of like the engineering side. Okay, let's put our emotions to the side. It's very much task-oriented.
Okay,
we need to get
that's
done.
Brandon.
Yeah, exactly, right? Blue is very much it's the emotional side, empathetic, your really emotional connection is really important to you. And then yellow, that's the OCD side. You got to make lists. Everything's got to be a plan.
I got a little bit of all that.
Yeah, everyone has a little bit of all that, but you take this test to see like what are your most dominant ones. And what that's supposed to do is not only is it supposed to make you more aware of yourself, but you're like everyone at their desk has their colors in order. So it kind of makes you like know how to engage with other people depending on their colors. So when I took that test, my primary color was green. Obviously,
I would have guessed.
Like Brandon, and my second color was orange. Obviously,
I would have guessed.
Yeah. So with you, what do you think you are now that I described
I
want to
take the test now.
Yeah, what do you, if you
every
had
time
to guess?
you said one, I was like, oh yeah, that.
Yeah, we all have.
And then I was like, that.
We all have.
Right. How much? Okay, so.
Extent, but what do you think your top 2 are?
You said creative, engineering, blue
creative
was
engineering,
like
blue's the empathy, emotional, then yellow's the OCD side.
Blue.
Do you think blue's your first?
I'm saying I feel like the first 3 are, gosh, I think my husband would say probably more on the emotional than the analytical, but I feel like the first 3 are pretty even. And then there is definitely some like on the OCD side, but it just pops up occasionally, I think. Also, ICU nursing is very like OCD kind of. So
I guess with the very fact that you were a nurse, blue would have to be one of your dominant one. Because why else would you want to get into that? Unless you're Filipino and it's a birthright.
Nursing. So I think nursing has been portrayed maybe a little bit incorrectly over the years in the media. Like, it used to be the angels, the caretaker kind of thing. Like, okay, we all have that piece of us, but it's insanely like critical as well. Like,
you guys really do all the hands-on work, really, right?
Yes. So I think nursing is a misconception that it's like, you just care. I care very hard. I care so much I keep you alive kind of thing. But it's like, no, not really. It's like you have to really know your shit, especially if you work in like the intensive care or ED, any area of nursing. But it's a lot of critical thinking and like numbers and being the first to notice changes in patterns in the numbers and to suggest things to the medical team based on the patterns that you've seen. And that. So I think nursing has been portrayed more in the like caring side. Like, sure, yeah, we care about people. We're trying to keep people alive, but they've sort of neglected a bit of this. Like, it's really analytical as well. And it's really adrenaline there's a lot of adrenaline depending on which arena you work in,
I can see that, especially ICU or emergency room.
Yeah, so I work working in trauma, it's like, blood, guts, gore, keeping people alive too, So anyway, yes, there is the caring aspect, but there is that like engineering, analytical, and the OCD, especially in the ICU. We're very much like on top of it all, And when you have so many things you're doing at once, you really have to be on top of it. I digressed. So anyway.
But so you're saying, I mean, generally, according to that test, there's two colors that dominate.
Ooh, okay. I think maybe my husband would be a more accurate guesser at that.
He said he would say blue for sure, the emotional.
I would think so because he's so much on the engineering, the analytical side, that I come off way more on the emotional, I think. But I think just based on what we've talked about for the past bit, I think I've talked more about like connection and empathy and like the soul kind of searching things. So definitely blue, but you don't have to ask him about the others.
I don't know, honestly, you don't strike me as a blue dominant person.
Interesting.
Because the way they described it, you would be really touchy-feely.
Yeah, I'm kind of like evenly. I like to think that I'm sort of evenly on the analytical and emotional side, but
that's why I would say I don't think you're blue dominant person.
Okay, interesting. I think it's just because Brandon's so far on the other side.
Yeah, it's of course when
sometimes
you're married and you're with someone.
It makes me feel like I'm too emotional on that side.
I wouldn't.
Yeah, I'm kind of. I feel balanced on both of those. I guess.
I mean, obviously, I think orange has to be one of your top two.
Yeah, I don't know. See, I'm between those three now.
You designed your office. You got your photography, your product photography, right? It really comes out. I think there's no way orange could be one of your lesser traits than to be able to do that.
So I'm back to the three, even on the three.
Yeah, you might be. Yeah, you might be more on the orange-green side, honestly. But just from what I see, personally, obviously I don't know you as well as Brandon. Our dynamic's completely different. Yeah.
No, I mean I think to a lot of people, I'm very even keeled when it comes to a lot of things. Like I don't feel. Some of my nursing colleagues have been like,
you don't feel at all, basically.
Well, like not that I don't feel, but like. Sometimes when people are stressed, they like show it a lot. And I feel like not a whole lot stresses me out. Like I do say that to my wedding clients a lot. Like literally, you cannot stress me out on your wedding day. Like
yeah, so that's where the green. That's why I say I really see the orange and green in you.
Yeah, like don't worry, I got
customer.
it.
Yeah,
I got it.
Yeah, exactly.
It's fine. Somebody keeled over and they're dying. I got it. Hold my camera.
I guess that's where the nursing really comes in, right? You feel confident in that too.
Yeah, I mean, like. When you're literally there in life and death, nothing else is stressful.
So,
I mean, that was like a very broad statement. Clearly, there are other stressors in life. Yeah. But I mean...
that's a good way to look at it, right? Because everything else is, it's all small stuff.
Yeah.
Supposedly, right?
Like, their heart stopped. Okay, like, this is serious. Let's get this done. Like
you see a lot of people,
the timeline's running 15 minutes behind, no problem. Can fix that, no problem.
Oh yeah, because you deal with the brides a lot, I'm assuming, right?
Like I'm comparing a lot to wedding days because wedding days are maybe the more stressful type of photography, right? Like products in the studio, I can work at my own pace. Commercial usually has a lot of other people that you're working with that are helping piece it together, and the timeline's usually a little slower paced.
In the photography world, do you have to be careful about what kind of work you take on? Are you concerned about being branded solely as a wedding photographer? Because in the videography world, that's something we're very conscious of.
Because our wedding videographers thought differently than cinematography.
No, not necessarily cinematography. No, just in if you for videographers. If your website is wedding videos, that's all you're ever going to get hired for. You kind of get that stamped on your forehead.
Right.
But if you really want to do branding work, that's where we're really kind of conscious of it. Does that?
No, it's the same.
Play the same way.
You post the work that you want to bring in. Mm-hmm. So share what you want to
run
get.
the gamut.
Yeah, so I share the things that I want to bring in, which is usually way more than other people. I don't know. I've heard a lot of like, you should be really good at one or two things and that's what you should do. But like, who says? Who cares?
Oh, such a rebel. But it's worked well for you. That's the thing.
I mean,
right?
it works fine for me. And when it doesn't, then I'll shift it and, do what works well. But so what the original question was, right. Post what you want to do more of.
So it does work the same way, just you don't give a shit about it. You're going to do what you like.
Yes. There are a lot of photographers who separate their wedding work from every other kind of work and like have a different website, different social media. Like life is hard enough as is. I'm a one-person team. Like it's not going to happen.
Social media is a lot of work.
It's not going to happen if I split it up. So it's working fine. And I think you can always swing things to your advantage. Like weddings or, all my commercial work helps me with weddings. Wedding day helps me with my commercial work. I shoot interior design. Well, that helps me with everything. There's every situation I need to know how to light a room well and the people in it well. Weddings have every kind of scenario, like the getting ready. So it's always like maybe a smaller room. It's inside. It's like maybe the worst lighting conditions, tungsten light, like you got to figure that out. And then working with groups of people, that's another skill that you really learn. And then working quickly and like in lighting and quickly changing lighting conditions and then in dark receptions and then in outdoors, in full sun, like wedding days really help you with all the other kind of work as well. And vice versa. So, I mean, you can always swing it to your advantage.
You're a jack of all trades almost, and in terms of photography, you do it all.
I wouldn't say that. I've been slowly like narrowing down like when something doesn't bring me joy anymore.
Oh, how very Marie Kondo.
I know.
Thank you. Even though you no longer bring me joy, see you later.
I mean, that's kind of what life should be, right? If it's not bringing you joy, to a certain degree, like if that's where all the money is coming from, you have to figure that out.
So what have you narrowed it down to? So you're narrowing down now.
I'm narrowing down a little bit. I don't really do a whole lot of family photography anymore. You've probably seen I haven't posted any family photography.
That I think of it, I don't see like your mini sessions
newborns, not really maternity things. Like that whole family realm is sort of kind of fallen off. Not to say I don't still do it. I do on occasion.
But why is it falling off? Why are you making that choice?
Because I'm finding more excitement in other arenas. And I just don't. It's a good problem to have that like my calendar's too full. Like I don't
that is
have the space for it. And so something has to kind of fall off. So the things I enjoy more these days are commercial, definitely product, because I can get super creative in product. And then unique weddings and elopements. And that's sort of where I spend most of my time. And thankfully I've been able to fill my calendar to the point where like I don't need to do the things I don't enjoy as much. So
how long have you been, do you see you've been like in the photography game for what, 4 years at this point?
Yeah.
Yeah, you're in a good spot for 4 years.
It's been a lot of work.
It is. No, I'm not saying there hasn't been, but definitely.
But yeah, I feel good. I've my goals have been to make more money every year, which I have to do to be able to have that as my career, right? And also to still love what I do and like find ways to learn and grow in it. So I'm doing that 4 years later. So it feels good.
What kind of things do you do? Because this is something I learned in the last 2 years where I really focus more learning on the business side, not really like creative videography stuff anymore. It's not to say that I'm a master or anything about it. But at a certain point, you know your stuff and you'll still learn more as you shoot it. But you've got the principles down at this point. You don't really need to keep doing deep dives on knowledge and that. You'll learn by experimenting. But it became clear to me that I really needed to learn more about the business side more than anything else. It doesn't really matter anymore since I've abandoned all that.
Well, I was going to say, tell me what you're doing now.
Well, you know what it is for me is because I've always kind of jumped in and out of the full-time world in terms of videography, Where my heart was always at was having my own thing in a production company or a solopreneur. But I just like, because of my lack of networking, I could never really get the ball rolling to the point where I could just do my own thing full time. So after a while, I would have to go back into the full time world and take on a full time, videography position, whether it was real estate or most recently with the media agency. And after like all those experiences, like I just learned that quality of work doesn't really matter as much as we think it does. It really doesn't.
No, you're right.
It's like a small part that determines your success of whether or not you can really do it full time as your own thing. It's probably the smallest part, to be perfectly honest. It was really more like the business side and the networking side, and it just so happened that was my Achilles heel, right? That's why I know. That's why I know why I flatlined.
Well, I mean, that's good to know. Like what, and that it wasn't worth it to you to make that, like, to change who you are to make that piece work.
Yeah, well, it's not that I don't want to change. It's definitely that I still try to work in that, because I just think as a person it would be good for me to work on it in general. Develop. I'd be such a curmudgeon, But I just came to the realization, what do I really want out of this whole video thing? And is it, at first you're kind of enamored by the idea of like doing a project for Nike or landing a big commercial job like that. But I've done enough client work where I was like, I don't really, dealing with clients is really a big part of the job more than anything. Is managing client expectations. And I don't know about photos, but for video, as soon as you turn in that first cut and you get the feedback from people who just don't know anything about filmmaking anyway, and I've got to fight this battle, and depending on certain circumstances, how much am I going to fight the battle, or am I just going to give them what they want? And that's not what I got into it for.
Right.
Right. At the end of the day. And then the same thing on the other side of doing the full-time gig is landing those kind of gigs. You have to deal with gatekeepers who don't know anything about what you do, don't know what it takes to actually do a good job. And these are the people who essentially hold your future in their hands. And I'm not willing to be victim to that.
So where do you end up if
Well, what I came to realize is investing wisely is the key. Financial freedom that has nothing to do with filmmaking is really the way to go for me. And so
so like totally, like it's not about what you're doing, it's what you do with what you have.
If I could find a way to just take care of the money aspect versus buy really wise investments and getting that passive income, that frees me up to do what I really want with this. That has no attachment to money, to landing clients, and all that. It's just pure personal fulfillment of what I want to do. At the end of the day, that's really what I want from it.
There you go.
Anyway, right?
Yeah.
So I left the job at the media agency. I've kind of just abandoned the whole, doing brand work and client work. Mind you, if someone offers me a ton of money, hey, I might still.
There's a price. Yeah.
There's definitely a price for me to jump back into it, or if it's something really fun, like that's kind of why I do these. Is I do the podcast because I really enjoy talking to people one on one, but my little twist on it is I do a different intro for each person, so that exercises the filmmaking skills, and I can still have fun doing that. Right. So that's kind of where have you ever heard of the concept, a hedgehog concept?
Hedgehog?
Yeah.
I don't think so.
So I read this great book. It's called From Good to Great. And what this book is a professor and his students, his assistants, I think they spent 11 years studying these companies where they went from being a good company to a great company. And I think they found 11 companies who made that jump, and they found 11 companies who didn't make that jump and got worse, but they all started like in the same position. They had the same opportunities. And they tried to say, well, what were the common factors that allowed them to become great versus failing? And one of the big key factors is what they call a hedgehog concept. So what that is the story goes is there's a fable about a fox and a hedgehog. We all know what a fox is known for. Fox is known for being really smart and wily and being able to do really different things. And every day this fox would try to attack this hedgehog, which isn't known for being really smart and wily. But the hedgehog, like a porcupine, has like these quills. I think they do. Or they just roll up into a ball.
Oh, okay.
And so no matter what the fox did, all these smart things it came up with, it just couldn't defeat this hedgehog because it just did this one thing really well. And that's what these companies that made the transition from being good to great, they all had like this core concept, this what they call the hedgehog concept, that they did better than anybody else, and they built their businesses and all their advertising, their marketing, all their decisions were based around that hedgehog concept. Those 11 companies that failed, they didn't have that. They didn't know what that was. So the way you determine what that is because I'm sure you're wondering, well, what the hell does that mean?
Yeah, I'm thinking like, is it a product or is it something they do well, like a non-tangible thing?
Yeah. So it's made up of three different things. It's when you ask yourself, okay, what is it that you can actually be the best at? Not like given your skill set, what has the potential to actually make you really stand out. Not that, where you're going to have to spend 10 years developing your skills. No, like now.
What are you naturally good at?
Yeah, naturally good at. 2, what do you enjoy? Then 3, what drives the economics of your company? Or what drives the economic engine? And where those 3 intersect, that's your hedgehog concept. So to give you an example, it's been a while since I've read the book. These examples were stronger. I mean, Wells Fargo for a while was trying to compete as a big international bank, and they were just failing at it. They couldn't compete with Citibank or the bigger banks. And then they realized, well, what are our strengths? Our strengths is actually being a big bank that feels like a local bank. So once they honed in on that, they dropped trying to compete internationally. They really just focused on that, having that feeling of a local bank, but we have the big bank features. That's when their company really started to prosper. And so all of their decisions were based around that. It's like, does this align with us being the best like local bank, but we're a big bank? Does that make sense to you now?
Yeah, it's reminding me of this other book I've read a little bit, but I'm putting that on my list of books I have to read.
From good to great, it's a great read. Obviously,
who is that? Who wrote that?
I don't remember. I'll text you later. Yeah, because it's on my list of books that I read. And it was a life changer when I realized because I was kind of starting to go in that direction already by realizing I just didn't want to deal with gatekeepers anymore. And when I started the YouTube channel with KRIS, well, what is this channel going to be about? What are we even going to do, right? So that's when I just kind of started thinking, okay, what am I actually good at with this video thing? Let's be very specific about it.
Yeah.
And one thing I'm really good at telling stories through cinematic images and the use of music. In terms of videos, I'm really great at that. And then another thing I'm really good at too is bringing about humor through one-on-one conversation and making feel, just having fun, making people feel really comfy. So how can I combine that then? That'll be my child concept. And everything I do will be based around that. If it doesn't fit in with that, I'm not going to do it. Because I feel like I can be the best at that. I don't think I can be the best filmmaker in the world. I don't think I can be one of these YouTube guys who have all these like flashy transitions. And that's not my style. I came up through the filmmaking scene. It's all about storytelling. It's just not what I do. But I do that really well. I'm really good at using music to really accentuate the story. I'm really good at using cinematic images and sequences to tell the story, and I'm really good at bringing about humor when I talk to people. So that's kind of what this is.
Yeah.
It combines all those.
Hi, Spruce. Yeah, and I feel like then that sort of informs every decision you make in your business or in what you're doing. And then, it gives people a clear picture of what it is that you do. Exactly. And that makes them, if people understand what it is you do, they're more likely to stick around. They know what they're getting. And I don't know, there's like a little space for you and
I'm more likely to stick around
there you
with
go.
it too, right? Because at this point, my whole focus is really trying to build, the 1,000 followers concept?
A concept? Like after 1,000 something happens?
Okay, so I'll tell you about it then. So Kevin Kelly, he's kind of like famous for predicting the future, and he's spot on all the time. Like he predicted Facebook and all that. He's not like in a Nostradamus kind of way. Just
Okay.
He's a futurist. He looks at the trends, and he can kind of see down the line what this is all going to lead to. And he said for creatives, actually, you'll really like this. It's kind of starting to prove true for you already. We don't really need, an audience of 100,000 or like 1 million.
Yeah, no way.
The only thing you really need is 1,000 true followers. And basically, these are people who will eat up everything that you put out there, who will tell other people about you and everything. If you can get to 1,000 true followers, that's actually enough to make a very good living. And that's all you really need. So
I believe in that.
Yeah, I know. I mean, I can see you're like definitely progressing to that. I see that in you.
It's 100%. Would rather have like 50 people that are like real and really care about what's going on than 500,000 bots or random people that aren't even present.
Yeah, so that's entirely what I'm focused on now. Is just trying to get to that 1,000 true followers, via the YouTube channel that Chris and I put out, and everything else is kind of, I don't really care anymore. That's so obvious, but obviously we still have expenses to take care of, and that's where the investing comes in and everything, and we can live off of our passive income.
So what happens when you have those followers that are like pretty engaged? Like how does that move into like making money,
instance,
or maybe it's not to make money. Maybe
it is definitely to make money. I mean, you get on YouTube because once you have a certain amount of followers, right, a few things open up to you. One, brand deals. There's many different revenue streams that you can get. 2, your own sponsorships. 3, if you come out with your own products, these people will eat it up. 4, affiliations. So like Amazon affiliate links, B&H affiliate links. There's tons of things you can do with it. You can do Patreon if you like it. So once you have those 1,000 true followers, all of a sudden these revenue streams start becoming a reality. And it's something that you can, I wouldn't say exploit, but it's something that you can take advantage of. And that's all built around just doing what you really want to do. There's no more gatekeepers at that point,
This is reminding me a little bit of Amy Porterfield talks about, or is it Jenna Kutcher? One of them talks about email lists. Like if you have 250 people on your email list, that's all you need.
Exactly.
Do you have an email list?
No, that's something I kind of like. That's why like my wife and I started doing that weekly vlog and weekly goals, just slowly what do I need to build? Okay, I need to build a website and start building a blog and start building emails. Slowly.
It's a process.
Yeah, it's a process. It's a lot. You understand. You do it all yourself. So
it's like, it's this building over time and then slowly filling those building blocks in of the other pieces. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's what I do now. That and obviously KRIS is a nonprofit. The idea was because when I was working at the agency, it became really clear. I don't know if I told the story in the podcast before, but there was this one time where we had hired a freelance editor to work on this other project that frankly we just didn't have time for. We were working on something else. And this project was this just really shitty project, honestly. It's just like, it's as boring as it could get. It's this, how there's a State of the Union for the president?
Yeah.
So this particular city had a State of the City.
Oh.
So essentially what the project was is we were basically going to make a PowerPoint presentation come to life with After Effects. It's a glorified PowerPoint presentation. So we hired this freelancer to do it, and he was working on it for 3 days. And me, I was the new guy at that point. I just assumed that this freelancer was up to snuff, because why would they bring him on if he couldn't do the job? Right, so I just trusted. I have a
feeling this is not going to be the case.
Yeah. I just trusted that fact. So he worked on it Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Then on Friday, at the end of the day, I finally walked over there and took a look and see what he was doing. And it was just a complete pile of garbage. What he did, his skills weren't up to the task, and that's not really his fault. It's just they shouldn't have brought him in. They really needed to do a better job of bringing in an adequate freelancer. And this project was due on Monday, and I was supposed to be looking over this guy.
And you did it. You had to do it.
I had to spend the whole weekend doing it.
Yeah.
And this is like 48 hours of my existence. I'm never going to get back working on a project that I couldn't give two shits about, making the CEO of the company rich Well, all I get is a meager paycheck. So it's like, it just became clear to me, like, why am I even doing this?
That was the point where
what's the point? To me, like, some very much, I guess, have like the artist of a soul in that way. I was like, it's not a fair trade, we're getting the raw end of the deal in that situation, right?
I mean, it's interesting in that a lot of times when something that you love and you feel passionate about becomes the way you make money, becomes your career, a lot of times it's like, it can be a weird balance, right? Because you want to only do the things that you really love. But you have to get to a certain point, I guess, to be there, right? So you do end up taking on projects that you're not super excited about. It happens to everybody. And it actually makes me think a little bit about my brother who played the trumpet. He went to school for music. And so he, all the time playing the trumpet, music performance, playing the trumpet. One day he just was done. Like, I don't want to do it anymore. It's like not fun anymore. And just sold trumpet, the end, done.
Sad.
But I feel like a lot of times you have to be careful when something that you love becomes your, job in that arena.
So how have you managed to avoid it these 4 years? I mean, mind you, 4 years, it's not too long of a time.
Yeah, it's not a whole lot of time.
I think I've been at it for 8 years. So
yeah.
So you're still in the, what they call the honeymoon phase, still in love, holding hands, you in photography. I still hold my hands, wife. I don't think I'll ever stop holding hands.
Yeah, no, it's good. Holding hands is good. I think you have to be careful, but you also have to go into it knowing that, especially at the beginning, like, not every project is going to be the dream project, but you have to look at it and see. I think you said this earlier about, what were we talking about? Where you're like, what good can I find in this? And like, how can I learn from it? Like, kind of when you went to the Philippines, like, how do I make the best of this? And if you want to do it as your career, you have to know that you're going to be in that spot at the beginning for whoever knows how long that beginning is. I take projects that I'm not super passionate about. Like, I'm at the point now, like, a lot of times at the beginning you work way too much, like, and then you realize what your time is worth. And then you have to do that balance of, if they pay me enough, even though I'm not passionate about this project, if I get paid enough, it's worthwhile. Like, that fits into the puzzle, right? Or here's this project that I really am excited about for whatever reason it may be. It's not going to pay, maybe it won't pay that much, but it's going to fulfill this creative space in my soul, right? So that other project's filling the money space that we need to live. This project's filling the creative space. And then you have a lot of projects in between that are like, oh, this could be fun. And it pays pretty decent, So as long as you've got enough of each of those buckets full, I feel like you can keep going. Being careful not to like burn yourself out with overwork, which is like tricky when you're the only person, right, running the business. So
I think maybe, I don't know if that's the unique thing about photography is, I don't know if there's, like, for instance, at the agency, we don't have a full-time photographer. I don't know if there's an equivalent for photographers like that, where you get a full-time in-house position.
Yeah,
is there?
There are, yeah.
Really?
There are in-house photographers for sure. Yeah, it doesn't pay
so
that great.
They might have a different story to tell. Because you've been able to, keep it your own thing.
Yeah.
That's a different experience versus...
I think so, yeah. I think in a lot of photography forums or Facebook groups that I kind of am a part of, there are job postings for things like that. And then I see a lot of people saying, like, some people are really into that, like the steady income, there's always work. And then there's other people who would just rather be doing stuff you're passionate about. And so the freelance life is the life for them. So I'm definitely I would get too bored kind of doing the same thing, which is part of the reason why I love all the different pieces, all the different kinds of photography I like to do. Throw in a little nursing here and there. I also taught for a little bit in there. It stopped during COVID. So I love the different aspects, but you just have to know what kind of person you are, I think, right?
Yeah. You know what? Let me use the restroom real quick. I'm not done talking to you. I want to ask you more about something. But I need to
Break
use the restroom real quick. And it's kind of the weird thing about doing these things is you have to pee, but when the conversation's flowing, you kind of don't want to break it. But I do that, like, even not in podcasts, if I'm hanging out with someone.
Yeah.
I don't know why. I just have the tendency to get into these long conversations when I'm hanging out with people.
Well, You just got to interject it somewhere.
It's like, man, can I just hold it till this ends? And it just goes on for another 30 minutes. It's like, no. But if I kill the flow, you ever do that at all?
Oh, yeah. Gosh, I was trying to think. I was like, this happened to me recently. I can't recall what the situation. I forget. It was a poor story. Sorry. No story. No story there.
I'm glad I asked.
No, I can't remember. But a lot of times in nursing, you're in somebody's room and they're. Oh, I think I had a patient that was like trying to tell me like their life story and like all these like really in-depth things about them and stuff that they like don't kind of want to interrupt. And I was like, I like had more than one patient and I was like 1 hour behind, It was like, wow, use all the like nursing skills, all the conversational skills that you learned, like reflect what they're saying and like, oh yes, so wow, thanks for sharing. And hey, you know what? Let me just tell you this. I have to see this other patient. I will be back. You can tell me more.
Do you feel bad about that or? At a certain point, you're just like, you know what, I have to make my rounds. I'm sorry,
I think people, if they're of sound mind, understand.
How about, because that's interesting. I was thinking about what you had to deal with yesterday with those 30 people. Do you ever run into that situation where your charm isn't working on someone?
Where your charm isn't working.
Yeah, you're trying to get them comfy so that their real smile comes out, but it's just what you're doing isn't responding.
Yeah, some people are just. I try to get like a bunch of different like looks out of people, like get them to smile, get a little more serious, everything so that they can choose the look that they like. Some people just aren't gonna respond. And then what I do is I just like, if I can tell they're really uncomfortable and it's not working, I just move faster, get what we need as quick as I possibly can. Because a lot of times it's just people who are just like, I got somewhere to be. I'm not here for it.
So again, you pick your battles.
Just do as fast as you can.
Yeah.
Move on. If you can sense what it is that's making them uncomfortable, like.
I guess, if you only really realistically have 6 minutes with each person, you have to move on. You don't have the time to.
Yeah, and they're only expecting 10 minutes out of their day. It's been scheduled for, so they know it's moving quick.
How much do headshots like comprise the work that you do?
Not very much.
Not very much?
Yeah.
Is that something you'd like to get more into, or?
I think that like the typical headshot is kind of like on its way out. Is it kind of dying a little bit?
I wouldn't know. It's not my world.
When would you personally use like a headshot of yourself?
Well, for me, when I was an actor, we needed those headshots. It was a completely different
kind
scenario.
of headshot. Yeah.
Luckily, I was past that era where you had a headshot, but you had to like have 4 different looks. Here's me as a tennis player. Here's me as a doctor. It was just me.
Okay.
That's it. But yeah, so for us, headshots were completely, it was just a must. But like for these corporate people, I never really understood.
Yeah.
Why
that's why I feel like it's not, I think it's more of a lifestyle photos is what things are heading toward. Lifestyle and branding. It's moving to that instead of like a headshot. So when I think headshot, it's like, here up, like white background, facing to the side, the same kind of pose for everybody, right? But it just feels too formal, or maybe it's California, or maybe it's the tech around here. People are way more casual. People don't want that kind of look anymore, and things have moved toward like personal branding, right? Everything's a brand. Spruce. So people want to show off more of their personality and connect with people, starting with their photo that you see of them. So
so it's like exactly what you're doing at that white space, right? When you're doing these shoots, like what's the name of that woman she specializes in legal contracts for creatives?
Annette? Is it
Annette?
Yeah.
Stepan, like with her, it's not just a headshot. You have, I guess these are what you would call lifestyle photos, right?
Yeah.
It's really her just being in the space and.
Yeah. The most recent lawyer that I shot, Hillary.
You shoot a lot of lawyers, huh? How did you get that niche? How did that happen?
I don't know. I think it's only been the 2 of them actually.
Okay. And both at that white space, right?
No, actually, Annette was like kind of a client. Back in the day, we did more headshots. Well, no, they weren't headshots. They were like lifestyle shots because she wanted people, and the same with Hillary, like the woman I recently shot for those mini sessions, but you want people to feel comfortable, especially when it comes to something like law. I guess it depends who your clientele are, but both of them wanted to feel like approachable and like professional, but like approachable. And Annette specifically, like her brand is more fun, right? So you get a lot from a first impression of a photo of somebody, right? Like how your experiences with them will be, like what they're like, do you want to work with them or not, like quickly within a few seconds. So.
Yeah, definitely. I would say photos, for me anyway, and I shouldn't say this as a videographer, but I think they have more of an impact on a website than a video does. Because a photo, you get that immediate reaction right away. It was a video. Oh, am I going to spend 2 minutes watching this thing to really get a feel for them? Or But right away, the photo will give you an impression.
Yep, like kind of all those things will cross your mind really quick.
Yeah,
so,
exactly.
So yeah, I think I don't do too many like headshots. And when people inquire about headshots, I kind of have to ask a little bit like, what do you mean? Do you mean like a pose photo on a white backdrop? And a lot of times they're wanting more of this branding lifestyle, which is like more casual photos or showing off a little more of their personality. So I do more of that.
What's funny is people have asked me, I don't know, they asked me to take like their headshots, like friends, some family members, and I always try to push them to you.
Oh, really?
But like when I tell them how much, it would cost, like they can't believe it. It's like, you guys shouldn't even be asking me that. I was like...
They want you to do it for free.
Yeah, it's just, it's interesting that people don't realize the value of these things and what it takes to actually do a good job, right? And but then they don't want to pay for it. I mean, that's a struggle when you do client work, right? You have to...
And creative work in general.
Yeah, you have to get to that point where, like, this is something I learned when I was studying the business of how do you make it so like only the clients that can afford you are the ones who really contact you.
How do you make it?
Because you have to kind of like winnow them out, because your time is precious. You don't want to spend 30 to 45 minutes talking to someone who never could have afforded you in the first place.
You got to find your people and speak to your people. So it's part of like everything that you put out there has to speak to your type of client that you want, right? So you kind of start with that in the overall picture of things. Like specifically,
I'm curious. Like, what is the Sarah Eichstedt? You prefer Eichstedt or Eichstedt? Like I like
oh my gosh, that's aggressive.
Right?
Sure, you can call me either one of those.
Well, how do you like to say it? Say it.
Eichstedt.
Eichstedt.
Yes.
So it's stead, not the T. It's the T's silent.
I mean, we say it the American way as opposed to the German way.
The German way is so much more fun.
Yeah, I was missing a letter though. The German way, the letter got taken out back in the day.
What letter?
It used to be EADT at the end.
Okay, so how would you say it?
I don't want to offend any German speakers.
Don't worry.
Probably more like Eichstadt, I guess.
Okay. Anyway,
I don't really know. Oh, actually, Brandon speaks German. I should ask him. But,
what kind of things do you do to?
Yeah, specifically, I guess like
your price and value so that people who can afford you are the ones who are reaching out.
That's something kind of that I learned over time. Something I decided last year was that I want to work less and make more. Like, whoa, how do you make that happen? Work less and make more. Okay, so you have to provide more value to people or more perceived value, first of all. So I think kind of putting out there all the stuff that people don't understand about the photo, right? They see a photo like, oh, great, someone just snapped that photo or whatever, and like giving them more of a hint at what happened behind the scenes, like those mini sessions. It was like finding a great studio with great light, like knowing how to shoot great light in that studio, having the right equipment, like showing people behind the scenes of what you do. Actually sent a style guide to all my clients. So told them like how to dress for these kinds of sessions. I had a like 30-minute phone or video chat with them to get to know them so that I could bring out who they are and understand like what they were trying to convey in that session. So like showing people that it's all those things, and then the day of, like making people feel comfortable, like creating the sets that show off their brand in the right way, knowing the technical aspects of shooting it, and then also showing people that it's all this editing as well. They see more than just like you see the photo, like someone just took that photo, like. So this you give them more value in it.
You make this transparent on your website that this is your process.
I think I try every time I like share something on my website, I have a little bit about what comes with each session. So let me start with like when you inquire, my inquiry form on my website asks for your budget. That's a really quick
That's
way.
a quick way to, yeah.
That's something that some friends and fellow creatives have helped me to figure out, because I did have that struggle of like talking to people, spending all that time investing, and then realizing that they thought they were going to spend like $300, but it's a $3,000 project. Like that, yeah.
So what is your, I forget the term for it. It's like the minimum price for like activity. Like what gets you out of bed then in the morning?
It really depends.
And what kind of project it is.
It depends on a lot. Yeah.
And
like
who's asking.
All those things. And like, am I super excited about it? Is it something that I've always wanted to do and not been able to? Like, is it something that's going to take a whole lot of my time, or it's going to be pretty easy for me? But I liked having that budget, and I even have it start at $0 to $100, or no, I have like less than $500 is the first category. And then, it gets bigger. And then the last one's over $10,000. And like, I don't care what you put there. It just gives me an idea of like what you think, like where you're coming into thinking what you're asking for is worth.
So you don't automatically eliminate the 500 or less.
Not necessarily.
Interesting.
I do give them like, if it's product, I come back with more questions. And like, so product photography is different, I think, because I usually end up doing a lot of the art direction and the styling, the prop sourcing. And it's like so many intricate little things. When people think you just put something in front of a backdrop and you shoot it, there's like a lot more planning. That's why
they sold those white boxes on Amazon, right? You could be a product photographer.
Like, I want photos of my 10 products. And it's like, okay, well, what does that mean? Do you want them shot on a white backdrop? Do you want a true white backdrop, or do you want it really like Photoshop removed to be a nothing backdrop, right? So it's like blending. And that's different from like styling a product. That's different from a lifestyle product, putting the product in a scene, so like renting a home, using a bathroom. That's different than using a model in a scene with the product. Like, anyway, I digress. But so I just try to get more information from them. And if you inquire about like 100 products and your budget's like less than $500, I'll just double check with them. Like, hey,
you still give them a chance at that point.
Yeah, I just, when I send my email, like, person. I just wanted to double check. Is your budget? Some people literally will just choose anything, and then they'll tell me, hey, don't pay attention to the budget. I just chose or whatever. So even when you try to screen, it doesn't happen as much. But and then I'll be like truly honest with them. I'll be like, just for what I know so far, like I think somebody wanted like 750 products shot. And yeah, I was like, just so you know, this is going to be upwards of the like in the like tens of thousands of dollars range. Just so you know, like before asking any more in-depth questions.
Yeah, exactly.
And they were like, oh yeah, sorry, no, that I don't. And they moved on, right? So, I mean, I got to get a little more information. I don't work with people just because they have a certain budget, but your time is worth a certain amount. So it has been interesting to see inquiries come in now that I've added that to my form, and just to see where people are starting at. Gives me an idea of what questions to ask and like where to jump in with them on a conversation. Like,
would you say that's been a big part of you kind of stepping up in terms of the finances of your photography, is making that distinction that you do turn other projects away based on budget?
I think more so like it's been doing so many different projects that I know the time that I would have to invest in each one. And looking back at the last project I did similar to that, was it worth it to me? Mm-hmm. And being comfortable saying, either giving the actual price that I think it's worth, given the time I'm spending, or to just pass on it. Did that make sense?
Yeah, no, that makes very sense. I think
being more comfortable. Yeah, like
any creative that does it for clients, right?
And like once you might not even know how much, if it's a kind of project I haven't worked on before, I'm going to give my best guess. Here's what I'm going to quote you, right? Based on what I think the time investment is going to be on my end. And then at the end, I'll reevaluate. Wow, was that worth it? Like, did I make enough profit off of that? Like, did I get enough fulfillment from that? Like, was the client easy enough to work with? All those things. And then next time I'll like charge more if it wasn't worth enough. And I think you get more confident saying no, being like, that wasn't worth my time because I'm not here on this earth to constantly be working. There's other pieces of my life.
So what direction do you want your photography career to take then? Because right now your schedule is fully booked.
And by fully booked, I don't mean every single day. That's been an interesting thing to think about. My friend Emily, hey Emily, she helped me to like look at my calendar for the whole year and be like, kind of block off. Like, these are days I could do a project. These are personal days I need to have. Otherwise, I was just booking everyday things, you know, like, where's the time to like clean the house or whatever it is. Sorry, let's go back to the question. What did you ask?
You go wherever you want. No, what I mean.
What did you ask?
What did I ask?
Oh my gosh, something about.
I guess what direction do you want your career to take then?
I want to continue to do projects that inspire me and kind of work less and make more on those type of projects.
And how do you see yourself getting there?
By knowing the value that I bring, being confident in that, and charging the correct amount on those projects.
Why does that make you laugh and smile saying that?
Because I think it's something that every creative kind of struggles with. I mean, certainly the longer you're in it, the more you're like pretty confident in what you're pricing. But if listening to the my favorite podcast per our last email lately has taught me anything, it's that we all feel that way about projects. You know, we all feel like we undercharge, and that's like such a struggle to get to, like, what's the right price, because you're afraid you're going to scare away the client and you really want the project. And even Brandon, who is a business owner in the engineering world, he does the same thing. Like, he quotes in the like hundreds of thousands of dollars. And we'll talk about it, and we'll sometimes have the same problems. Like, I didn't know if I didn't want to charge too much. You know, I really want this project. It's going to be interesting, but I'm afraid that this is going to happen. So I'm going to need to charge more for this. And then.
Have you ever heard of the YouTube channel, The Future?
No.
So it's The Future without an E at the end of the word future. And what they focus on is basically business for creatives. And it was a game changer for me. It's kind of funny since I've abandoned, that whole client thing. But it was a game changer in terms of that, because they really just teach you about that. And what his backstory is essentially he had a graphic design company in Southern California. I think it's Santa Monica. I can't remember, but they also ended up doing a lot of video work, After Effects, and they were super successful, won a bunch of Emmys and everything. And so what he realized is there wasn't really a lot of business education for creatives out there. Yeah. And so he kind of just flipped the script and decided he's going to just focus on that then, and then teach all creatives everything that he's learned about business. And I think you might find it really helpful and give you more confidence in terms of pricing, because he takes you all through all those issues of self-doubt and everything. But here's why you shouldn't give a shit about that. And
right.
Here's why.
Right. No, I have been loving reading business books. Like, that's all I read lately. And it's pretty eye-opening. Yeah, it's been awesome. Like you said, you became more interested in the business side. I think that's been me the past year. I've really kind of
I'm sure it's made a huge difference for you, right?
Business side. Yeah, I mean, I think so. But it also, like, in making for a better life too, and learning more about business, you make for a better life, and that your business runs
itself
more efficiently. Yeah.
Do you do much pitching in the photography world? Pitch projects?
like cold emailing people, or what do you mean? Not necessarily
cold emailing, but where companies ask you to pitch your idea as part of the process where they decide whether or not they'll hire you.
I don't think I've gotten to that level.
Does that happen in photography? I don't know anything about the photography world.
It does, like on a bigger scale, like bigger scale companies. I think I'm sort of in the mid range.
Oh, you gotta go. So the door just opened.
That's one thing about this house. The doors don't work. Okay. They're getting replaced.
No, because one of the books that's out there, that's actually is what this guy KRIS, who does the future, that's basically what he bases his philosophy on, is this book called Win Without Pitching. Because, in the graphic design world, especially like in the video world, it's just kind of a given that you're supposed to pitch your idea as part of the hiring process.
Even like smaller projects?
Oh, yeah. Really? Everyone expects you to pitch the idea.
So that feels like giving up stuff for free.
Exactly. But the thing is, like, most creatives just accept it, that it's part of the process. But so, like, the future, Win Without Pitching, it's this whole movement that, like, no, you need to stop that right now because you're doing work for free.
Nope.
Yeah, exactly.
That's like half the battle is coming up with a creative idea.
Exactly. Yeah. So that's what this YouTube channel, that book really teaches all about, is how to position yourself correctly right from the beginning. So one, you don't have to pitch, but two, so that they're gonna pay you those higher prices that you deserve. And so you should give it a read. It's called Win Without Pitching. I'm basically becoming a book salesman.
I know.
On this thing.
But that's great. Actually,
from good to great. Win Without Pitching.
I'll have to write these down because I'll forget.
I'll send you a message later. So you don't forget. But
how'd you know I ran out of books recently? So I'm. It
was just meant to be. There you go. It's serendipity.
Series.
But yeah, I think that's because they never teach you anything about that when you're studying. I know you're self-taught in YouTube, but like when I was studying filmmaking, at the community college, they don't teach you anything about that.
Yeah.
But I guess maybe, do you think they should?
Oh yeah. Well,
should they? Because at the end of the day, what's their responsibility? Is it to teach you the skills of the craft, or is it to teach you what you're supposed to do afterwards?
I mean, you got to prepare people for the world. I mean, sometimes school in general doesn't do a good job with that, right?
No, I'm not a big fan of college. So,
yeah. So, I mean, like any schooling probably needs to get a little better on transitioning to the world, life skills, business skills, things like that. Yeah.
Well, I guess for you, it was, well, how did you do it? You were just training yourself through
business?
YouTube. Yeah. I guess it just happened naturally for you, didn't it?
I'm naturally inquisitive. I mean, Google's my best friend. Lots of reading books, I stalk Facebook groups. I don't post a whole lot. If there's something I can comment on, I do, but like I'm part of a ton of different Facebook
you're
groups.
A lurker.
Yeah, just because there's so much information that people are putting out there. I feel like that's a good way to learn from like real life experiences. Spruce. And then just the Rise and Tide Society, community with other creatives, kind of learning from each other a bit. And then also, my husband is a part owner of a business. So we kind of talk a lot about business in general. And it's so interesting because our businesses are so different on such different scales and in such different industries, but so many similarities in being a business owner.
At the end of the day, it's the same problems, just the numbers are different.
Yeah.
And that's one thing they teach you in Win Without Pitching, was like, you should realize that just because it's bigger numbers, it really shouldn't scare you. It's really still the same principles, same problems. There's just a few extra zeros in there.
Yeah. And then we all learn from like trial and error, right? Like, that didn't work too well. Let's try something else.
So what would you say then is, if you had to describe the Sarah Eichstedt, I'll say it the way you like it, like photography, what is it?
What is my company?
What is your brand? Yeah. What can a person expect?
Ooh, so joyful couples and creative brands is sort of who I like to bring in, and it's just vibrant photos. Usually, I tend toward like joyful, vibrant, joyful photos for like creative and happy people. That's what I do.
And how did you hone in on that?
How did I hone in on that? It is a process. It's funny. Instagram has been pretty pivotal in my business, and it's been a way for me to learn what to define my business too. Because I look back at what I post, because you post your favorite pictures and things, right? And so at the very beginning, I'd look back and be like, "Oh wow, I love color. Like I'm posting a lot of color and a lot of yellow. Like, gosh, I think I like color." Thing? The teal and orange thing? Yeah. What do you mean?
Oh, you don't know that? The teal and orange thing? Because there was this time where every post you saw on Instagram really pushed the teals and the oranges. What you do is you put teal in your shadows and orange in your highlights or in your midtones to really create that contrast, and it became like this standard look that was like on every single post on Instagram, and even videos were taking advantage of it too. So you never went down that road. Good for you.
I've tried to just to look at what makes me happy. So I post photos that I love. And so I started to realize I love color. I'm like, okay, that's my thing. Color makes me happy. Those are the photos I love. And then I would notice that I always posted like candid photos or people in the squinty eye, like full on laughing, or just that had a happy feel to them. Like summer feels happy to me. Like also a little bit creative, like creative use of lines or space. Those kind of photos made me happy. And I posted those all the time. So a lot of times when you're like in it, you can't see it. So but when it's in Instagram, I can look back and see what I like.
So you do that. That's part of your process.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, now it's pretty clear to me that at the beginning, it's hard to define your style as a photographer. I don't know if it's the same with video. Like what is my style in terms of shooting, but also editing? Like,
you know what? That's an interesting thing. I'm just going to clap here for myself real quick. No, I forgot to do that to sync the audio. That's so random. I'm just clapping in the middle of the podcast. It's very interesting because, as like a videographer or filmmaker, for those who don't like that term, there's a time where you just kind of pride yourself that you have the skill set to make anything look good, whatever style it is, right? That's the job. Whether it's supposed to be, super happy, brand joyful, or supposed to be super action and intense, or if it's going to be a little bit more emotional, like cinematic, you're supposed to have the skill set to pull off all of those.
Okay.
Right. But at the end of the day, I would say if I did have a style, I would say mine goes more towards like natural. Like to me, a good lighting job is when people don't even realize that it was lit.
Yeah.
Like one of the best things someone told me is, I noticed you just use a lot of natural light on it. It's like,
you're like, I got
you. I got you.
I love that.
Right?
Yeah.
Because it goes back to the filmmaking world. Like lighting has to be motivated. You can't just have this light here out of nowhere just because it looks good. But if it's not motivated by anything, for us in when you're for videos and films, it takes you out of the moment, right? All of a sudden, what the hell is that doing there?
It's so funny. Sometimes I do that to Brandon when we're watching something. I'm like, oh, that lighting, like that's all I'm seeing is this terrible, like.
Yeah, exactly. Right. So that's definitely more my style, and I'm definitely not into like flashy transitions. I'll use them every now and then if it suits, the project, but by no means is that my bread and butter. So I would say it would have to be that. Yeah. I don't know. Like I don't know if I have enough experience at this point, really, to say that I know what I'm good at. But is it a style? I don't know.
I think that's a struggle for a lot of like visually creative industry. It's like how do you stand out? Like how does someone choose you over someone else when they're just like scrolling or searching?
You seem to be doing a pretty good job of that yourself, though.
Well, here's the thing. I think that the fact that I do shoot everything is confusing to some people. Like, how does that work? Because you're supposed to have like a thing that you do, right? But I think it's because visually it's all similar. Like, no matter what it is that I'm shooting, it's colorful, it's creative in its like use of space or lines, and it's joyful. It brings happiness and joy. So I think it's not as confusing to people when they see that visually it all works. I don't know.
No, that makes sense. I get it. I know whether it's going to be a wedding or product or lifestyle.
Yeah.
I know I'm going to get vibrant colors. It's going to be fun. There's going to be interesting use of lines.
Right. And I say that.
I should be a salesman for your.
That's exactly what it is. It's like, those are my clients. My clients are joyful. They're creative. They're kind is totally separate, and they love color. So whatever arena that's in, those are my people. And, I think that sort of stands out to people because it's a little different. But I have had a lot of people come to me like, wow, this is like everybody has these other styles, and like you're the only one I've seen that his style is so different looking like this. I'm sure there's lots of other people that shoot kind of how I do or whatnot, but initially it's like always a little scary to do something that you feel is different, right? In the world. But yet that's what makes you stand out, and that's what brings your people. So anyway.
So in 4 years, you've managed to carve out your own little niche already.
I think so. Yeah. And it's like just doing what makes me happy. Like, what do I want? So
that's, you know what I read? I didn't go off a tangent, but I read this little blog post yesterday. You know who Mike Rowe is, the Dirty Jobs guy? So he made this 5-minute video talking about how following your passion is actually the wrong thing to do.
Tell me more.
Okay, so his argument was, I was reading this on Rich Dad Poor Dad's blog, Robert Kiyosaki, because it's another book I read recently that kind of blew my mind away. And his argument was this, is that if there's just too many people out there following their passions when they really would be much happier, more successful doing something else. Like, for instance, what the example he uses is American Idol contestants. Mm-hmm. It's filled with people who are following their passions but really have no business singing at all.
Okay,
right?
yeah.
So at a certain point, you have to kind of be objective. Okay, I may be passionate about this,
100%.
but do I actually have what it takes to make it?
Right.
And that's where he says that's why he says, like, following your passion is the wrong thing to do. He said you shouldn't follow it. You should just always bring it with you wherever you do.
Yeah.
But, there are missed opportunities, and like he says, like the skills trades, like being a plumber or things like that, where you could become very successful instead of being a failed singer. So that's his argument about it. Whereas you're the opposite of that, though.
No, I mean, I totally agree with what he's saying. Like, it depends what your passion is, and where that intersects with your talents and how that all works together.
Because I remember that's the one thing I was thinking when you told me that you had only been shooting for a year and a half. I was actually real impressed because your photos look really good.
Oh,
already.
Thank you.
It was clear, that you had. To me, it was clear that you had the eye. Right? It was just something. Yeah. You know what I'm talking about. Making it sound mysterious, but that's something we always look at, right? As visual creatives, does this person have the eye for it? And it was clear to me you did. What do you think about that? Do you think that's something someone can develop, or does it have to be there?
Interesting question. I mean, certainly you can learn what makes a photo visually appealing and work on that. I mean, I'm sure you can. I feel like you could. It's the fact that it doesn't come as easy might make it more of a struggle, maybe.
But do you think it's like a significant factor whether or not someone's gonna succeed?
I think it probably, you could probably succeed if you work really hard at something, but like it might be harder and you might not get to as high of a level as you might expect. So your ceiling is lower. Maybe. I mean, I'm trying to think about athletes, right? I'm kind of trying to think like to a certain degree, there's some part built in that.
Yeah, that's where I always used to take it to, because I always use Michael Jordan as an example, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, so many people are just as athletic. So many people practice every day too. But there's just something different about Michael Jordan that took him to another level.
Yeah, and whether it's physical or his mindset or the combination of both,
right? But it's obviously, I could have trained just as hard.
Yeah.
I was never going to be at his level. So people have different skills. But what changed my mind on that? I think because with athletics, I think the physical component really it's a difference maker. And that really does put a ceiling on certain people. But for something more, I don't know, cerebral or creative, I've changed my mind on that. I used to be a Nazi about it, like either you're born with the eye or you're not.
Well, I mean, that's a pretty hard line.
No, because like I said, I grew up playing basketball, right? So that's just the world I came from. I knew it. It was like that with sports anyway. But then you know who Lindsay Adler is? Mm-mm. So she's
Sounds familiar, but I don't.
Yeah, she's just a super successful like fashion photographer now, and based in New York. She shoots for Elle magazine, all sorts of stuff. But she was giving a seminar for B&H about how to build your career as a creative. And she showed like all her beginning work when she was just starting out, and her work was complete shit.
Well, we all start there.
No, but like, I mean, complete horseshit where you couldn't see that. Because I can see people's work where, yeah, technically they're raw, but I could see the eye. Like I see the angles that they're shooting.
I
I
want to
could see
see
like
now.
I can see like instinctually they're building depth into the shot, or they're naturally playing with the leading lines, right? Even though they don't know they're doing it,
Yeah.
you can see it.
Yeah.
Even though the picture itself just technically might not look it, it's not exposed correctly, whatever. But you didn't see any of that in her beginning work. And then you see where she ended up, where, oh my God, she's so creative and like top notch photographer. And that's where my mind was changed. That's like, huh, okay, I guess
Yeah, I mean,
maybe
like,
it can be developed.
there's certainly, you can always like break down like what makes, I love to do this. So I go through like magazines, you get in the mail, and you're like, oh wow, I'm drawn to this shot. What do I like about this photo? And you can really break down creative things into more technical side, and then learn to incorporate that into what you're doing. Like, what is it that I like about this photo? And really try to define that, and then start to incorporate that into what you're doing. Or what do I not like about this photo, and should I not do? So yeah, it's all learning.
So you don't believe in the whole, being born with the eye.
Well, I mean, I feel like some people might naturally have that for sure. But then, like, it seems like you can break down and learn it, It may take longer.
But do you think that puts a different ceiling on them if they have to learn it as opposed to already having it?
I mean, potentially. I don't really know. I haven't thought too much.
You could have really just been riding this whole photography thing, and it's just been this big wave that's really just getting bigger and bigger for you.
Even because I didn't like sit down and plan it out.
Yeah, right?
Yeah, if you plan too much of life, like you miss all the other exciting things coming at you.
But you have to have some sort of plan.
I mean, you have to be able to survive.
So, what kind of things do you do when you're on set shooting to make sure that you're getting the images that you want? How do you get that fun?
How do I get the fun?
Yeah, how do you bring out because it is, it's not as easy as people think.
It kind of depends on what you're shooting. First of all, like, does that, hopefully, like most of my clients like the vibe that I bring and the creativity that I bring and the joy. But so long as that's what we're going for in the photo. I do, not always shoot the like super happy vibes, but that is what I post because that's what I like to get.
Yeah.
But I think it comes down to one, planning, making sure you have like the right backdrops and the right props and the right people and the right plan to bring out those kind of photos. So like, I don't go for like a super dark backdrop in any of my photos, right? Because the bright makes people happy. It kind of brings that feel. The right kind of setting and props, and then the right models. And if they're regular people, the right non-models, just, everyday people that are comfortable enough to make it happen. And then you have to bring that getting to know the person, making them feel comfortable, all that we talked about, like kind of at the beginning. Even when I do use real models, a lot of times the photos that we keep or that we love that have that vibe are the in-between moments where they're like done doing the pose, but you still have your camera up and then we're laughing about something that happened on set and then you just grab it in between.
Do they know that you're snapping away still, or?
A lot of times they've just lost their focus and they're not paying attention.
Uh-huh.
In fact, at the corporate shoot just yesterday with the headshots, and then we moved into like people at work doing their thing. Almost every photo that we ended up keeping as a select photo was when I was like, just do your thing. I'm setting up the lighting. I'll tell you when we're ready.
Oh, but you're a dirty, dirty liar. Little do they know that you're not actually
literally. Yeah, because I mean, they weren't models, right? Models tend to know a little bit more about like how to make things look a certain way, whereas a lot of times everyday people were just like, okay, now make it look natural, and then you do the most unnatural thing, right? So you just catch people when they're not thinking they're posing.
It's so fun. I didn't realize there are really a lot of parallels to photography and videography. Like what you're describing is essentially, that's the director's job.
There you go.
Right there, is to bring that out in people. And you basically You do the same thing. I didn't realize it was that similar. Obviously, technically, there's some differences. Well,
So wait, you're saying that I've been playing two roles this whole time, and I should be charging more?
Yeah, essentially. Yeah. Do you charge because you were against pitching? Yeah, I'm assuming you charge for all your prep work too, then, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
And I mean,
for you, that you're already aware of that, because there's a lot of creatives out there that aren't aware they should be charging for that.
oh my gosh, it's all learning experience. But then like most of my shoots, I'm the one doing the directing as well, and I literally charge for the art direction too.
Yeah, you should.
Yes,
yeah, exactly. But there's a lot of people who don't realize they just think it's all one package, and
you show up and the photos happen. And I was saying that at the shoot yesterday, where it took like 20-30 minutes to like get the lighting right, and then all the things for the one photo, right? And people think, oh, just take this photo real quick. I'm like, no, it's not a take this photo real quick moment, right? It's just a lot more.
And then I saw on Instagram, you had that other photo where you were at the poolside doing some sort of
that was
even you had assistants holding you and everything. Is that a normal thing for you now, where you're bringing on assistants on projects?
Yes.
That's awesome. That's so awesome.
Yeah, literally you realize it's interesting because like commercial photography, there's like this leap when you go into commercial photography between like smaller business, like mom and pop, or like non-commercial work, to like commercial work with mid-range companies. It's so different. The expectation, like when you go into like real commercial world, there's like the producer, there's like the digital tech, there's the lighting assistant, there's the prop stylist, there's like, there's all these people. And then you realize when you're doing for the smaller companies, you are all of those people. I'm literally the location scout. I'm the lighting setup. I'm the art director. I buy the props. Like I'm styling the models. Wait a minute. I'm doing all of these things. It's an interesting jump between, because I do still work with a lot of smaller and non-commercial, and then anyway, so
now that you're doing like bigger commercial work, does it like hurt a little bit when you're doing the smaller stuff? You're kind of like, oh man, I really wish I was on a bigger shoot. You don't have to name specific clients.
No. I don't like wish I was there. I love the smaller clients as well because getting to do all those roles is interesting, and you like kind of have creative control over it. But then, you have to just appreciate where you are, right? When you're in the commercial shoots and there's other people that can do that, are doing that things, and you get more downtime and you get to just be creative with the photos. That's another thing.
But I'm assuming that's definitely the direction you want to be going in, right? Because you want to do less work for more money, and that's definitely where it's going to be at, is doing bigger commercial projects.
Probably, yeah. Probably. That doesn't mean that like I wouldn't still work with smaller companies here and there. It's just like you get to be more selective about what you work with when you don't have to worry about the pricing as much.
So let's send it this way then. What is the end goal for your photography?
I don't have an end. I'm just growing and doing what feels right.
You don't have like an ultimate goal, like, oh, I really want to achieve that. I want to be shooting covers for Vogue.
No.
You don't think about it at all?
No.
That's interesting.
Well, like, if you're always chasing a goal, you're never like just enjoying where you are.
Yeah, that's a perfect line to end it right there. How was that? You did over 2 hours.
Oh, really?
Yeah. You have fun?
Yeah. You always ask really good questions.